Chapter 61 End. Naruto's words made Zuiyu, who was in a state of confusion, immediately wake up. Although her heart was extremely complicated and throbbing at the moment, she had to force herself to settle down. Listening to Naruto's words, her eyes slightly narrowed. Okay, next, no matter how painful it is, you have to hold back and know. Don't pass out, Naruto said solemnly. Zoe nodded slightly. Well, just be patient for a while, it will be over soon. The next moment, Naruto slowly pressed his hand on her neck. Naruto's gentle words made Zuoyu's heart finally calm down, and she felt the warmth from his palm around her neck. At this moment, she seemed to be in spring. However, in the next instant, an incomparably strong, heart-piercing pain suddenly came from the neck and hid all over the body. Zuoyu couldn't help but let out a painful moan, but she bit her lip and tried her best to hold it back. The wave after wave of pain made her tender body tremble, and the pain that went straight into the depths of her bones made her almost faint, but he kept Naruto's words in mind and tried his best to stay awake. Her lips had been bitten, and the slightest trace of blood slowly flowed out and dripped to the ground. And here, Naruto finally snorted, and the runes written on Zuiyu's body suddenly poured into the curse mark on Zuiyu's neck like flowing water. At the same time, the sigil mixed with Naruto's blood was also exerting a strange power. Naruto's spirit followed these runes written by his own blood and sank into Sayu's spell. Half an hour, for Zuoyu, it seemed like a year had passed. When the pain all over her body dissipated, she finally fell down weakly. A warm embrace hugged her naked body tightly. Okay, it's alright, I'll make you suffer, Zuoyu. Naruto said softly, unlocking the shadow clone, and his voice was slightly tired. The evil Dharma seal, using his own spirit as the vanguard, entered into Sayu's curse seal, and cooperated with the power of the seal to eliminate the spiritual power of Orochimaru hidden in the power of the curse seal in one fell swoop. After doing this, he couldn't help feeling a bit tired. However, in this way, Sayu's curse seal is completely out of Orochimaru's control, that is to say, the curse mark on Zuoyu's body is now the same as her own, and it has no erosive effect on the body. However, it is even more difficult for Sayu to use the power of the curse, because at this time the power of the curse has been transformed into a pure force of nature, unless it is like Naruto who can comprehend this nature on the spot. If you use the power of nature and use it for your own use, it is absolutely impossible to use it unless Zuoyu also cultivates the power of nature to achieve the way of the immortal. However, how many people have been able to achieve such a state throughout the ages? The power of nature is not so easy to learn. Naruto relies on his own potential and the powerful spiritual power from the Traversers to use the power of the curse seal for his own use, and it is extremely difficult to further understand the power of nature. Therefore, although Naruto now has a powerful spell seal immortal power, in terms of application, it is still in its infancy. Sayu leaned on Naruto's warm embrace and felt extremely tired both physically and mentally. At this moment, she finally fell asleep, but unconsciously, a sweet smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Feeling that Sayu was tired and fell asleep, Naruto had to help her get dressed, and then walked out of the secret room with her in his arms. Outside the secret room, Kakashi was looking down at the intimacy paradise. The moment Naruto opened the door, he turned his head and saw Naruto holding Sayu in his arms, and immediately asked, "Naruto, is it going well?" Naruto smiled back. Kakashi let out a sigh of relief and laughed, "Nice job, Naruto. But, Sasu, didn't she have a big reaction?" "Huh, what's the reaction?" Kakashi laughed and said, "When you seal it, you have to take off your clothes with her character, she is willing to let you." The corners of Naruto's mouth twitched. This Kakashi laughed really wretched. "Sure enough, I have seen a lot of intimacy heaven. I'll take her to the restroom first," Naruto hurriedly said, and the figure disappeared in a flash. After settling Zuiyu and coming out of the lounge, Naruto returned to the hall of the tower. Seeing Naruto appear, Sakura immediately ran over and asked in a coquettish voice, "Naruto, where have you been just now? You don't know how exciting the game was just now. Besides, you didn't see my game, really. Yes. Sakura chatted about the game to Naruto, while Naruto smiled and listened quietly. However, when he heard that the next game was Choji, he was stunned. So, everyone else is done? Naruto asked involuntarily. Yeah, but you missed a lot of great fights. Tell me about the specific situation of the game. Naruto said, because he went to seal Sayu just now, he missed all the exciting parts of the game, and he was most concerned about Hinata's safety. Don't know how her fight with Neji went, if it's still the same as the original. Fortunately, from Sakura's face, he didn't see anything bad happening. It seems that it should be similar to the original. And then, judging from the news he learned from Sakura, it was indeed the case, but Hinata, who was seriously injured, couldn't see herself beside her, so he must be very sad. It seems that this time gotta see her after the game. Chapter 62 Visit. Next, Naruto watched the final game of the preliminaries, and the three generations announced the matchup list for the third final to be held a month later. Naruto still faced Neji like the original. Suzuki meets Gaara. It seems that things have not changed much. Naruto thought for a while. Orochimaru's Konoha collapse plan was about to come, but he still didn't think of any effective way to stop him, unless he became stronger this month. The evening, Naruto came to the gate of Hyuga's house. At this moment, two janitors from the two branches in front of Hyuga's house stepped forward to stop him. Uzumaki Naruto, what are you doing here? Naruto smiled lightly. I'm here to see Hinata, please let me know. The two looked at each other, nodded after a slight hesitation, and one of them ran in. Naruto waited in front of the door, and after a while, a middle-aged man walked out slowly. It was Hyuga Hiyashi. When he saw Naruto, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes, and then he regained his composure. I heard you want to see Hinata. Well, she seems to be seriously injured today. Is she all right now? Naruto asked. Hinata is fine. Hiyashi nodded, then pondered for a while and suddenly said, if you want to come in, you can go and see him. With that, Hiyashi stepped aside and motioned for Naruto to come with him. Walk in the door. Naruto smiled slightly, feeling a little strange in his heart. This Hiyashi is quite kind. He thought he would be hated for his identity as Jinchuiki column. In fact, Naruto didn't know that since he was appreciated by three generations and showed a certain strength and talent in the Chunin exam, these elites and high-level people in Konoha have been admiring him, and patriarchs like Hyuga Hiyashi, whose vision and knowledge the things that come to mind are also more far-reaching. Although Naruto is still only a human Jinchuriki column force, but because of the support of three generations, his future in Konoha can be said to be bright, so everyone's attitude towards him is natural. Got better. After all, a qualified and powerful person, Jinchuriki column force, is more important than Hokage. Follow Hiyashi all the way to Hinata's bedroom. The furnishings in Hinata's bedroom looked simple, but it looked very clean and tidy. At this time, Hinata was lying on the couch, in a deep sleep. Hinata's heart was damaged during the battle. Fortunately, the medical ninja rescued him in time, so his life was not in danger, but he was seriously injured, and it won't be healed for a month. Hiyashi on the side said with a sigh. Naruto stepped forward, sat beside Hinata's bed, looked at her pale face, and couldn't help but feel a little distressed. This girl is so stupid. She fell down early if she couldn't beat her, but she had to stand up stubbornly. He shook his head helplessly, looked at her for a while, and saw that although her face was pale, her expression was peaceful and pain-free, and her body should be fine, so she stood up again. Well, since Hinata is all right, I'll take my leave. I'll see her next time. Hiyashi looked at Naruto and smiled politely. Thank you Naruto-kun for coming to see Hinata, then let's go slowly. Yeah, Naruto smiled slightly, walked out the door, and just wanted to leave across the yard, but suddenly heard a tender scolding suddenly sounded behind him. At the same time, a strong wind hit Naruto's back. Naruto frowned slightly. Someone dared to attack him. The next moment, I saw him turn around gently, stretched out a hand, and already grabbed the attacking palm. I saw a 7 or 8-year-old girl appearing in front of her. I saw her staring at him with a pair of Byakugan. "Are you that guy Uzumaki Naruto?" the girl asked, wrestling away from Naruto's arm. "I am, what's wrong?" Naruto looked at the little girl in front of him strangely. In his memory, this seems to be Hinata's sister, right? The one named Hyuga Hanabi seems to be much more talented than Hinata, and Hiyashi has also been focusing on cultivating her. Humph. So it's you who stole my sister's heart. It doesn't look like much. Hanabi looked at Naruto and shouted angrily. Huh. Hearing her words, Naruto was slightly taken aback. Hinata likes her own business, doesn't even her sister know? My sister always mentions you in her diary, but I didn't expect you to be not handsome at all. You are still far from being worthy of my sister, Hanabi said with a look of disappointment and indignation. Naruto couldn't help shaking his head and laughing. This little girl is too busy, isn't she? Hey, don't worry about so many things as a child. Besides, is it wrong for you to peek at your sister's diary? Naruto said helplessly. Huh, you are such a poor fellow, you are not qualified to teach me a lesson. If you can beat me, let's talk about it. Look at the palm. Hanabi pouted angrily and attacked Naruto involuntarily. Naruto had a slight headache. I didn't expect this Hanabi to run out against him so inexplicably. This girl is too worried, right? At this moment, Naruto decided to teach her a lesson, otherwise it would be really lawless. She dared to read her sister's diary, it was really no big or small. However, Hanabi's moves and styles are still very standard. Although she is a 7 or 8-year-old girl, her gentle fist is no worse than Hinata's. Except for the amount of chakra, she can't compare to Hinata. The angle of punching, as well as the stepping technique, and the position of dodging are more proficient than Hinata. It seems that Hiyashi is really eccentric, and he spends more energy on this little daughter than Hinata. Naruto thought to himself while smiling and dodging Hanabi's moves. After a while, Hanabi still didn't even touch Naruto's clothes Kakuzu. He was so tired that he was panting. Naruto still stood there with ease, as if he had never moved. Chapter 63-80. Naruto's relaxed attitude made Hanabi look very annoyed. Didn't his father say that even his sister Hinata's strength might not be able to beat him? Why does this guy look useless at all? Why do you just run away? Hanabi exclaimed angrily. Naruto smiled and taught. You girl, you can't win even if I don't make a move, let alone if I make a move, don't you understand? I advise you to find a chance with your sister. Be humble. Humph, I want you to take care of it. Hanabi was annoyed by Naruto's preaching, and he snorted, and wanted to expand his movements to hit Naruto, but at this time, a man's snoring suddenly came, followed by Hiyashi's figure. Shua appeared on the field and stopped Hanabi. Go back, Hanabi, you're still too young, Hiyashi said calmly and dignifiedly. When Hanabi saw that his father was coming, he immediately stepped back and stood behind him, his head bowed in an obedient manner, but those pure white eyes were still staring at Naruto faintly. Clearly looked displeased. Seeing her look like this, Naruto couldn't help but sounded Zuo-yu. Both of them are considered geniuses, this kind of unconvinced look is really similar. Naruto, the little girl is ignorant and bothers you, I will teach her a good lesson. The next moment, Hiyashi politely said to Naruto. You're welcome, she's still young and ignorant, of course I don't care. Then I'm leaving, Naruto replied with a smile. I'm not young. Hanabi couldn't help muttering when he heard Naruto's old-fashioned words. Naruto waved his hand and left Hyuga's house. Hiyashi still stopped in place, looking at the direction Naruto was leaving, but he was still thinking about his skills just now. Unexpectedly, his own gentle fist turned out to be a child's play in front of him. Although it was displayed by Hanabi's gentle fist has also brought a bit of heat, but this kid has never made a move from beginning to end. The gentle fist method, famous for its close combat, didn't even touch his Kakuzu. This had to shock him. To be able to do this, the strength of this Uzumaki Naruto has definitely reached the level of a Jonin, even an elite Jonin. But how is this possible? Although he has the power of Kyuubi, 9 tails, his own strength is too outstanding, right? After leaving Hyuga's house, Naruto's mood was a little relieved. Seeing that Hinata was not a big problem, he just had to recover for a while, and he couldn't help but smile. The sky was dark, and the sky was only dotted with a few stars. Naruto walked freely under the street lights, thinking about his thoughts. The atmosphere of the nightclubs on both sides of the street was lively, and there were bursts of fragrance from various snack bars from time to time. Suddenly, he also felt hungry. At this moment, a clear female voice came from the side. "Hi. Naruto, why are you alone?" When I turned around, I saw Enko was sitting in a meatball shop, with the meatballs in his mouth and waving to himself with a smile. Naruto was stunned for a moment, then walked in with a smile. "Mr. Enko, what a coincidence to meet you here," he greeted politely. Enko greeted Naruto to sit down and said with a smile, "Naruto, it's so late, what are you doing on the street alone?" "I just did some business and was going back to sleep." "Oh, since we met here, let's eat something with me." Enko handed over a kushimaru and said enthusiastically. "Thanks a lot then." Naruto was also welcome, took a few bites and said with a smile, "It tastes pretty good. I happen to be hungry too." "Okay, then I'll ask the boss to bring some more skewers." Enko called immediately, and then she immediately ordered the boss to bring up a few more plates of balls, still with various fillings. Naruto smiled and said, "So much, I won't pay if I can't finish it." "It doesn't matter, just treat it as my treat." Naruto kept eating, and after a few kusamaru had eaten, he was no longer hungry, and suddenly raised his head and asked, "Oh, by the way, how is your injury?" He subconsciously looked at the direction of her hole. "It'll be fine after bandaging, you're still very considerate." Enko smiled for a moment after being taken aback. A baby face looks really cute, Naruto thought to himself. The two chatted while eating, and the time passed quickly. In a blink of an eye, it was midnight, and the customers in the store also left. Naruto and Enko were already full. "Ouch, I'm hungry." Just when the two of them wanted to stand up and leave, Enko suddenly shouted, clutching his stomach with his hands and crooked, almost falling to the ground. Fortunately, Naruto was on the side and hurriedly supported her slender waist. However, Enko suddenly pressed his entire body on Naruto's shoulders, and suddenly a woman's unique body fragrance floated into his nose. At the same time, Enko's baby face also naughtily approached Naruto and laughed. "Little Naruto, you have to help my sister, I can't walk anymore." I don't know if it was the smell of meatballs or the original fragrance in Enko's mouth. When it was sprayed on his face at such a close distance, Naruto suddenly became very uncomfortable. Seeing Naruto's embarrassed expression, Enko suddenly let go of him and laughed. "Little Naruto, you look so shy and cute. I was just teasing you." Forehead. Naruto was sweating, and he couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. It was really terrible. When Enko was leaning on her just now, her weapon with a D-cup size was placed on her shoulders, and it felt heavy, soft and slippery all of a sudden. It aroused the enthusiasm of his men. Fortunately, Enko stopped in time, and he hadn't made a fool of himself, otherwise he would be laughed to death. Naruto really couldn't do anything about this quirky Enko for a while. I had to say lightly, "Actually, I don't mind, do you want me to take you back?" "Cut, you really think I'm overwhelmed?" Enko stood up and patted him on the shoulder. "Don't be rude, Naruto, honestly, did you have any bad thoughts just now?" Chapter 64 Celebration. This Enko is such an adult, and he likes to be so funny. Naruto couldn't help but smiled helplessly and said, "Since you are not hungry, then I will go back first, thank you for your hospitality." After speaking, she left without waiting for her to say anything. "Huh, why are you running so fast? I'm not going to eat you," Enko yelled from behind. However, when she chased out, Naruto was long gone. "Humph, How dare you escape? Don't get caught by me next time. Anko muttered angrily, and then a sly smile appeared on his face. This guy, it's quite interesting. Back at home, Naruto, who had been tired all day today, couldn't help but feel a little tired, so he lay down and fell asleep. The next day, Naruto got up early and planned to practice. Now my Rasengan is very skilled, and things like combat skills and experience can't be rushed. If you want to deal with Orochimaru, you must have more powerful tricks. Perhaps, you should also change Rasengan's attributes. Learned. At this moment, the knock on the door suddenly sounded, and Naruto stepped forward to open it and looked at it. A cold jade face appeared in front of him. Zuo-yu. Naruto was slightly surprised. Why did this girl come here? Naruto, I came to see you because I wanted to train with you. Zuo-yu said indifferently, but Naruto still saw a trace of unnaturalness on her face, and smiled inwardly. Zuo-yu would have when you have a soft temper. It seems that this girl must have something to ask herself. Okay, it just so happens that I'm going to practice. Naruto nodded without hesitation. When Zuo-yu heard the words, she felt a little joy in her heart, but her face was expressionless. The two came to a training ground somewhere in Konoha together. Then, the two started as if nothing had happened. Naruto divided several shadow clones, used Rasengan continuously, and wanted to add the nature transformation of the wind attribute to them, and Sayu also learned Naruto's appearance and divided several. A shadow clone and start practicing. Naruto frowned slightly. It seems that this girl heard about her training method yesterday, so she also wanted to try it. However, this method is only suitable for people with strong spiritual power and vitality beyond ordinary people like themselves. In the arena, the shouting and shouting kept on. Sayu was in the thunder and fire. Naruto was in the whirlwind. Both of them were practicing their own ninjutsu. Time passed unknowingly, and Naruto already felt a little bit. Since he had already learned the change of wind attribute, he only needed to add this change to Rasengan at this time. After such a moment of groping, Rasengan has already begun. Something has changed. However, just when he was secretly rejoicing, Zuo-yu suddenly groaned, and all her shadow clones turned into white smoke, and at the same time, her body collapsed weakly. Seeing this, Naruto hurried up to help her up, but saw Zuo-yu leaning on his arms with a tired face. Naruto, what's wrong? I'm so tired. Zuo-yu still didn't understand that this was a burden brought by shadow clone training, and was lying in his arms weakly and asked. Naruto shook his head and smiled bitterly. Zuo-yu, this method is not suitable for your cultivation. Your current spirit is under a lot of burden, and it is not bad that you haven't fainted. Why is this? So Naruto had to explain to her the side effects of the shadow clone cultivation method. After listening to all this, Zuo-yu's expression suddenly became depressed. It turns out that I have always been dissatisfied with you, and now I finally understand. You have all my progress has come from bearing such a heavy burden, but in comparison, I don't know what's going on. Since Naruto sealed herself that day, she is no longer so dissatisfied with him in her heart, and even she felt that the feeling of lying in Naruto's arms at that time was really warm, the thought of wanting to lie down forever. But another voice in her heart told her that she must become stronger, and she must kill that man, so today she put down her face to practice with Naruto, and wanted to make some progress from the practice of contacting Naruto. After all, Naruto's rapid growth has completely convinced her. However, what Naruto said now shattered her hopes again. It turned out that even if she was a master and trained in the same way as Naruto, she would not be able to become stronger. Seeing her look of loss, Naruto couldn't help but smile and comforted. It's okay, Zuo-yu. My cultivation method is not suitable for you. You can find a method that suits you. You can become stronger. I am also very happy. Quote. After a while, Zuo-yu was no longer so dizzy, and Yuji broke away from Naruto's arms and stood up. Then I'll go back and think about it for myself. I'll go first, and I won't disturb you. Yeah. Naruto nodded slightly, with a sincere smile on his face. It seems that this girl Zuo-yu is also polite. After training until the evening, Naruto walked home slowly. However, just as he was passing by the village gate, Sakura suddenly stopped him. Naruto. Sakura, what's the matter? Naruto was also a little surprised to see Sakura here. It seemed that she was waiting for her. Sakura trotted over, came to Naruto and said, Naruto, everyone is going to hold a celebration tonight to celebrate your selection for the finals next month, and you are missing. You will definitely come tonight. Huh? Naruto was stunned for a moment. A celebration party. Will everyone go there? Of course, and I called Sakura just now, and she agreed. Don't you want to go? Sakura pouted. Oh, well, since everyone has gone, let me go too. Naruto looked at her expectantly, so he had to agree. Anyway, he didn't care about this kind of party. Although it was just a group of children, it would definitely be boring to go there by myself, but since everyone was helping me celebrate being selected for the finals, I had to go. Chapter 65 Busybody. Location was set at the barbecue restaurant in Konoha, and at night, Naruto went there alone. Before we arrived, we could already hear everyone's laughter. As soon as Naruto walked in, Sakura immediately came over, took his arm and walked in. Naruto, you're the last one here. You see, Sakura came earlier than you. Naruto turned his eyes slightly, and sure enough, he saw Sayu who was sitting quietly eating barbecue, and when Zuo saw Naruto's arm being pulled by Sakura, he glared at him angrily, and continued to eat barbecue. Looks like everyone was having a good time eating. Naruto greeted him, and sat down without hesitation. But at this time, Ino suddenly waved to him attentively. Naruto, sit on my side. Take my side. As soon as Sakura heard this, her expression changed. She glared at Ino secretly, then pulled Naruto's arm tightly, pulled him to sit beside her, and said to Ino, of course Naruto is sitting next to me and Sayu. He is our team. Ino, why do you want Naruto to sit with you so much? I just want Naruto to sit with me. Sakura, you won't even interfere with that, will you? Ino retorted. Sakura looked at Ino strangely. You don't like Naruto, do you? Immediately, everyone laughed weirdly. Ino got slapped on Yuhi's face all of a sudden, and then bit Kiba, raised his neck and shouted, yeah, what's the matter? I just like Naruto. Ever since Naruto saved me that time, I fell in love with him as soon as I lived. So, as my good sister, Sakura, do you know what to do? Naruto was slightly sweating on his forehead. He didn't expect Ino to be so daring to confess in front of so many companions. He was a little embarrassed. However, after Sakura listened to it, she looked at Ino's expression carefully. After seeing that she didn't have any joking elements, her face became complicated, and she thought to herself, I didn't expect Ino to like Naruto too. What should I do? As her good sister, should I let her? No, everything can be given to her, just this one thing. So, Sakura also raised his neck and shouted, no, Naruto must sit with us today. Why are you doing this? Ino was suddenly very angry, standing up and wanted to fight with Sakura. Sayu, who was sitting on the side, saw that Sakura and Ino were fighting for Naruto's jealousy, but she felt extremely uncomfortable, and suddenly felt that the barbecue around her mouth was tasteless. Smelly Naruto, dead Naruto, it's all your fault. Fortunately, at this time, several voices interrupted the atmosphere in the field. Yo, I didn't expect you little bastards to gather here, the relationship is so good. Kakashi appeared with a lazy voice. Ah, Kakashi-sensei, you're here too. Sakura hurriedly stood up. I thought you weren't free. How could I not come with a free barbecue? Kakashi smiled. At this time, there were several voices next to him. How can students get together without a teacher? A teacher can make the atmosphere more lively, haha. It was Guy. Haha, Kakashi, your disciple is still quite popular. Asuma adjusted Guy to Kakashi, and then said to Yuhi next to him, are you saying that, Yuhi? Yuhi just smiled faintly, but his eyes were fixed on Naruto, and there seemed to be a trace in his eyes. Dissatisfied. Naruto didn't notice. Taking advantage of this moment, he quickly sat down beside Zuoyu. Although Ino was a little disappointed, after a while her eyes rolled. She immediately left her seat and came to Naruto with a few skewers of barbecue and handed it to him. Naruto, try this, is my favorite barbecue. Naruto smiled slightly, but it was not easy to refuse her kindness, so he took it and ate it. Ino smiled sweetly, happy to see how he was eating. Several Jonin teachers made everyone more active. After a barbecue, everyone was very dedicated, but there was a little episode in the middle. That is, Choji ate too much at once, and had a stomachache, and then Asuma had to sending him back made everyone dumbfounded. Lee nor Hinata was present at the celebration, because they were both seriously injured, especially Lee, who is still in a coma, so everyone decided to go see Lee after the barbecue. As for Hinata, because his family belongs to the Hyuga clan, the clan rules are strict, and it is not easy to visit. Next, the group visited Little Lee at Konoha's hospital. Watching Little Lee, everyone dispersed. Just when Naruto was about to go home, Yuhi suddenly stopped him. Naruto, can you come with me? I have something to tell you. Naruto was stunned. On the quiet street, only the footsteps of the two of them were left. Accompanied by the dim street lights, Naruto finally turned his head and asked, Mr. Yuhi, if you have anything to say, just say it. Yuhi stopped, looked at him suddenly and said slowly, do you know how Hinata performed in the qualifiers that day? Naruto was slightly startled, then nodded. Yuhi frowned. You were not there at the time, you must not have seen it. This child behaved as if it were two people at ordinary times. Naruto thought of Hinata's character of being soft on the outside and tough on the inside, and how cute and shy he was when facing himself, and he couldn't help but smile. Yeah, Hinata is a very strong girl. Fortunately, her injury is not a serious problem now. But do you know, after she fell down, she kept calling your name. Yuhi frowned and looked at Naruto. As her teacher, I know her best. This child already loves you. Into the bone marrow. Naruto was stunned again, a little surprised that Yuhi knew that Hinata liked him, and replied, yeah, I know that, Mr. Yuhi, isn't that what you said when you came to me? Humph. Uzumaki Naruto, I thought you were much more mature than your peers, but it seems you are still a child. Yuhi said angrily when he heard this. Since you know what Hinata has in mind for you, then don't entangle with other girls. Although puppy love is a very troublesome thing for children of your age, but I think you should understand that Hinata can't stand hurt. If you let her know that you are still dating, she'd be heartbroken if other girls were so entangled. Naruto looked at her strangely. Are you listening to me? I said, Mr. Yuhi, what are you worrying about? Naruto was silent for a while and then suddenly smiled. I remember you don't have a boyfriend yet. You don't worry about your own affairs, but you come to worry about me. Matter. Yuhi choked on Naruto's words. Chapter 66 Jiraiya. Okay, Mr. Yuhi, I won't let Hinata be sad. Naruto smiled. Hinata is such a cute girl, I won't let her hurt. Really? That's the best way. Seeing Naruto's smile, Yuhi seemed a little relieved. Well, that's it, I'll go back first. Goodbye. Naruto waved to her, turned and walked back, and the figure quickly disappeared in the street ahead. Yuhi looked at his back and murmured, I hope you don't break your promise, Uzumaki Naruto. In the following days, Naruto began to practice. He divided more than 10 shadow clones and let the clones practice Rasenshuriken, while the main body continued to sit under the waterfall to practice chakra. As for Sakura, she couldn't find any good training methods for a while, so she could only continue to explore and practice alone, while Sakura had already gone to the medical class to participate in the training. Others also practiced this practice individually. This Chunin exam, everyone saw their own strengths and their own shortcomings, so everyone was very motivated. On this day, Naruto was sitting under the waterfall cultivating. The huge waterfall almost drowned Naruto's entire body, leaving only a little space for him to breathe. However, under this incomparably huge pressure, his body chakra, all the time intensified under pressure. But soon, Naruto's quiet practice was interrupted. Because at this moment, several crisp and pleasant female voices sounded beside the waterfall. "This place is so good, there is such a pool under the waterfall." "Hey," I said, "everyone is taking a bath here," one of the girls exclaimed happily. Okay, the water here must be cool." Immediately, several girls began to undress, and after a while, they jumped into the water and played with each other. They didn't notice Naruto in the water-filled waterfall. And when Naruto heard these voices at this time, he immediately knew that someone was here to take a bath, and he couldn't help but sigh inwardly, how unlucky. If you want to cultivate well, it will not make people quiet. At this time, Naruto felt a little resentment in his heart, so for his own cultivation plan, he had to make an amazing move. Wow! There was a sound of water, and Naruto's half-naked body suddenly jumped out from under the waterfall, and then stood directly on the water, looking at the girls who were playing under his feet with a smile. "You guys had a great time, can I join in?" Naruto laughed. Perverts. After a few seconds of silence, the girls suddenly screamed, and they didn't care about anything. They crawled out of the pool directly, covering their hidden spots with both hands, while going to get your own clothes to find cover. In less than a minute, the girls ran away, and Naruto stood on the water and muttered to himself, "I hope everyone will not be regarded as a pervert. Well, for the sake of cultivation, there is no way." After he finished speaking, he wanted to go back to practice. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from the side. "Hey, boy, why did you drive my beautiful little sister away? Don't you know that Immortal Ben is taking materials?" With long white hair up to the waist, a rough face, a forehead guard engraved with the word, "Oil," on his head, and a yuhi-colored imperial robe, he looks pretty cool, but the one with nosebleed, his wretched face suddenly revealed his true nature. However, Naruto was also a little surprised to meet him here. He was hesitant at first, should he go to find him near when Izumi, but he jumped out first. "Does a wretched guy like you dare to call himself an immortal?" Naruto counterattacked mercilessly. "What? How dare you say that this immortal is wretched?" Jiraiya was furious. "You brat is so ignorant. Do you know who I am? I am Mount Myoboku Toda Mortal Jiraiya. The legendary Sannin knows." "I know, but I'm even more disappointed when I find out. It turns out that Sannin is such a wretched guy." Naruto looked at him, laughed secretly in his heart, and said sarcastically, You little brat is so unlovable." Seeing that Naruto could not fight, Jiraiya suddenly lost his way. "Do you know how important they are to my materials?" "Of course I don't know, but I know that they have seriously disturbed my practice, and I think scaring them away is also a kind of salvation for them, or else they will be watched by your wretched uncle." After speaking, Naruto didn't care about his reaction. He walked into the waterfall again and sat down to practice. Jiraiya was very curious when he saw that his cultivation method was so strange, and could not help but walk over to observe it. After a while, he opened his mouth and said, "Boy, I think you are quite smart. You can come up with such a good method, which can not only strengthen the body, but also strengthen the chakra. I really deserve it." As expected of Minato's son, Jiraiya thought to herself. Suddenly, a light flashed in his eyes. He stretched out his arm, clenched his fist and punched Naruto in the waterfall. Although Naruto closed his eyes, he could also feel a fierce momentum coming. He suddenly opened his eyes, his body suddenly stood up, his hands were in front of him, and with a bang, his body shook slightly, and he immediately blocked it. Jiraiya's blow. When Jiraiya saw Naruto blocking his punch, his eyes lit up, and he shouted, "Good boy, you are strong." Immediately after, he kept attacking Naruto. Naruto saw that he wanted to test his strength so much. It looked like he fought with him. After a few rounds, the two continued to compete in physical skills, hitting the shore from the waterfall all the way. With a snap, the two sides each took a kick and separated. Still, Jiraiya laughed and said, "That's great, boy, Who did you learn such a powerful skill from? Teacher Kakashi. There are also 3 generations of old men. Naruto smiled. Strictly speaking, Kakashi and the 3 generations can only be regarded as guiding by the side. The most important thing is his own efforts and the advantage of knowing everything. It seems that you have a good life in Konoha. You are also an absolute genius among your peers. Jiraiya praised. However, this is all you can learn in Konoha. Let's take a look at ninjutsu like you've never seen before. As soon as the voice fell, Jiraiya stretched out his arm, and a Rasengan whistled and condensed. He kicked his feet and rushed towards Naruto. Seeing Jiraiya's Rasengan, Naruto twitched the corner of his mouth, and then in the latter's suddenly widened eyes, he stretched out his palm, and he was very skillful to condense an identical Rasengan. Rasengan. I already knew that. Chapter 67 Psychic. Jiraiya was frightened and stopped immediately. The Rasengan in his hand disappeared, and cried out in disbelief, "Boy, how can you do this technique? This is the technique developed by the 4th generation Hokage. No one in Konoha knows it. Teach you." Naruto showed a bright smile and pointed to his head, which was rather mysterious. It's a matter of human beings. No one teaches it doesn't mean you can't learn it. Isn't the 4th generation of Hokage no one taught it? Jiraiya's eyes widened, and he asked, "Did you create it yourself?" It's too coincidental. Jiraiya didn't believe it even if he was killed. It's just that genin guys can create ninjutsu, and it's even more incredible. Yes, he can create the magic that his father created. Do sons and fathers think alike? Seeing that Jiraiya didn't give up without asking, Naruto actually didn't know how to explain it. Could it be that he was a transmigrator and already knew the principle of this technique? In the past, Kakashi's 3 generations and others had not asked themselves about this matter in detail. In fact, they were also very puzzled and could not understand. In the end, they could only blame it on the inheritance that the 4th generation left him. Thinking about it, Naruto can only shirk this to his own dead ghost father, so he waved his hand and explained, "Okay, for the sake of you don't look like a bad person, I'll tell you. In fact, there are sometimes things and information will pop up in my mind inexplicably, and this Rasengan is what I cultivated according to that information." Quote. When Jiraiya heard this, she was startled and thought to herself, could it be that Minato left something in his body when he sealed Kyuubi, 9 tails? It's no wonder then. Hey, Minato, it looks like you've left a lot to your son. Seeing that Jiraiya has been brought into the conversation by himself, Naruto smiled slightly, and secretly said to the 4th generation, "Don't blame me, I didn't mean to lie, this is a white lie, a white lie." After a while, Jiraiya finally came back to his senses. He looked at Naruto carefully again, looking at his blonde hair that was exactly the same as that of the 4th generation, and his face that was somewhat similar to Kina's, and his loving heart suddenly overflowed. "Naruto, I see that your strength is very good. Do you want to become this immortal's disciple?" The next moment, Jiraiya said to him. "Oh, disciple." When Naruto heard this, he let out a feigned surprise. In fact, he was already thinking about whether he would become Jiraiya's disciple and accept his protection and training as in the original plot, or would he just go his own way and find a way out on his own. After thinking for a while, he nodded affirmatively. "Yes, but I don't know if you are qualified to be my master." Naruto is neither stupid nor too. Of course he will not refuse. Watching Hokage all over, who is the most qualified to be a master? It is only Jiraiya, although he is usually unruly and has no ethics, but he is still very powerful at critical moments. Yes, especially the love for Naruto. In the original work, it was Jiraiya who made up for the lack of parental love and motherly love, and only Jiraiya can give him the kind of parental protection. Although the current Naruto does not need parental love and mother love, nor does he need the protection of others all the time, but to have a relationship with Jiraiya as a master and a disciple, that is also something he can't ask for. "Hey, boy, how dare you underestimate me? Let's you see this. The art of psychics." Jiraiya laughed. The next moment, he bit his finger and pressed it on the ground. With a bang, white smoke rose from the spot, and then a toad that was as tall as a person appeared in front of Naruto, and around the toad's neck, there was a beads with the word, loyalty, printed on them. My psychic beast is the toad family with the title of the strongest psychic beast in the ninja world. How about it? Do you want it? Evening. It was still in the open space beside the waterfall. After signing the contract, Naruto finally mastered the key points of this technique after practicing psychics for a long time. Basically, as long as he knows the hand seal and controls the output of chakra, he can do it. The toads are successfully summoned, but if you want to summon the toads of Mount Myoboku as you like, you must have further contact with those toads. Once you are familiar with the other party's breath, you can make an accurate call. Now, Naruto has achieved the first 2 points. The hand seal is very familiar, and the amount of chakra is well controlled. Next, let's try the result of the summoning. The art of psychic. Naruto suddenly maximized the chakra output in his body, and slammed his palm on the ground. Boom! With a loud bang, accompanied by the white smoke rising into the sky, a huge toad that looked like a small hill appeared at Naruto's feet, and Naruto suddenly rose into the air. Slightly exhaled, Naruto looked at the toad Bunta wearing a short jacket with a pipe at his feet, and laughed. Sexy toad, look, this is my achievement. At this time, Jiraiya had already stood there with his mouth open and stunned, looking up at Naruto with a bright smile standing on top of Wentai's head. Under the reflection of the sunset, his figure seemed to overlap with the 4th generation. Jiraiya couldn't care less about being called such an ugly nickname by Naruto, and he kept mumbling, just one day, he summoned Toad Bunta with his own power. This child's talent is completely beyond for you, Minato. I will definitely train him to be a ninja who surpasses everyone. Really, who called me out? Huh, it's actually you little brat. Toad Bunta exhaled in annoyance, and then said slowly, Jiraiya, why did you give the contract to a brat like you? Toad Wentai said so, but he was secretly shocked. This kid looks so similar to the 4th generation, could it be that he is? Then, Naruto entered the test of Toad Wentai, but the current Naruto has surpassed Jonin in any way. It is easy to stand firm on Wentai's head. Let Wentai jump around. Go, he just stood still. Finally, Wentai also had to admit his strength. Little devil, it looks like you are much more reliable than that guy Jiraiya. Don't let me down. Toad Wentai left such a cool sentence before disappearing in place with a bang. Jiraiya, who was stunned in front of him, and smiled, how is it? Did my performance pass? Chapter 68 Visit. Since he learned the psychic skills, Jiraiya's understanding of Naruto has become more profound. Powerful talent, smart mind, and mature thinking, all of which, in his opinion, do not look like a 12 or 13-year-old at all. Children. For Naruto's teaching, it is also easy to understand, and he does not need to worry about it at all. Jiraiya has never felt that it is so easy to bring an apprentice. This apprentice not only has a solid foundation, but also cultivates very hard. Once he encounters something he doesn't understand, he doesn't need to fully explain it himself. He understood and went to practice on his own. A month passed quickly. Naruto has become very proficient in psychic practice, and he and Jiraiya have also learned several other summoning techniques, such as Toad's esophagus, etc. In just 1 month, Jiraiya has a feeling of being out of blue. However, this month, Naruto did not focus all his energy on psychics, during which he also practiced Rasen Shuriken, which requires strong control and enough chakra, but it is not that simple, although he divided more than a dozen shadow clone to work together, but until now there is no complete master. Moreover, even if he turned on the spell mark mode, after using the spell mark immortal power, he could not use this technique perfectly. This is similar to the original Naruto master who can quickly train to throw Rasen Shuriken after mastering the Sage mode. Compared to the level of going out, there are obviously some gaps. From this, Naruto also realized the inadequacy of his own spell seal state. Although it seems to be powerful, the natural power of the spell seal immortal power can also greatly enhance his body and chakra, but this power after all, it only comes from the curse imprint. Every time Naruto relies on the curse imprint to exert the power of nature, In fact, he does not have the complete master's natural power. The power of the outside world. He may be able to sense some of the natural power of the outside world, but it is far from the level of application. After all, the power of nature that can be used through the spell seal is still limited. Moreover, Naruto himself also lacks a process of comprehending nature. Compared with Naruto in Sage Mode in the original work, his control is also slightly inferior. The day before the final, after Naruto finished his training at the old place, Jiraiya specially invited him to have a big meal in order to wish him success in the final tomorrow, and after the meal, he would take him to soak in Izumi. Of course, Naruto is very happy about this. Jiraiya is a person who enjoys life very much. He drinks, massages and takes a bath. After doing the whole set, he enjoys everything except that he does not go around with women. The two came out of Izumi's bath contentedly, and it was already dark. Seeing this, Naruto couldn't help frowning. What's wrong, Naruto? Not satisfied. Jiraiya smiled and patted his shoulder. Naruto didn't make a sound, and he thought about it in his heart. During the period of cultivation, he wanted to find the news of finding Orochimaru in the village, but since the preliminaries, everyone in Sandin village went back immediately, until this morning. Without the news of their return, Orochimaru was really cautious, and did not blatantly stay in Konoha for a month, but chose to return to Sandin village to discuss specific matters during this period. This also reduces the risk of the Konoha plan leaking out of the joint collapse of the two villages of Sand Ninja and Otogakure. However, tomorrow is the finals, and this group of people should be arranged tonight. It seems that something must be done on the corners of the mouth tonight, otherwise it will be too passive tomorrow. After all, Orochimaru is very annoying, and Sayu's revenge has not yet been avenged. Naruto pondered for a while, then slowly raised his head. The corners of his mouth showed a smile that was not a smile. Lascivious Toad, will you be in the village for tomorrow's finals? Yeah, don't worry, I'll watch your performance. Jiraiya laughed. That's good. Naruto nodded and suddenly said, I think you said hello to the 3-generation-old man. You must have known about the last time I met Orochimaru in the Forest of Death, so tomorrow you be careful. Jiraiya was stunned for a moment, then his face became serious. Naruto, did you find anything? No, I just have an intuition. That guy will definitely do something tomorrow, and now you can compete with him in the village, so. Reminding Jiraiya, Naruto separated from him. In fact, he also wanted to make it clear that Orochimaru's plan was rooted in Jiraiya, but he also knew that once he explained this kind of thing too clearly, it would be detrimental to himself. No matter how talented he is in ninjutsu, he can tell Orochimaru's plan at a young age, which will only make him a spy. He will not do such a stupid thing, and even if he says it himself, the organization it is not easy for everyone to find Orochimaru. The Konoha collapse plan was carefully arranged by the two ninja villages. If they could be caught so easily, Naruto would not believe it. Therefore, tonight is destined to be the only one to act alone. The evening breeze was blowing in the street, and before the finals came, there was a chilling atmosphere in the air. It seems that God's premonition is much stronger than that of human beings. Naruto was walking alone in the dark, and the direction in front was Konoha's guest house. Temari, who had just arrived in Konoha, stayed in the room quietly. Gaara stared blankly at the night outside the window, Kankuro carefully wiped the puppet, and Temari was playing with his big fan. Suddenly, Gaara said lightly, "Someone is here." "Who is it?" The two of Temari immediately stood up and became vigilant when they heard the words. Tomorrow is the time to implement the plan, and this time is very important, and there must be no mistakes. Uzumaki Naruto. Gaara's eyes flashed with excitement. "Go down and have a look." Both Temari were taken aback. How did he come? Chapter 69 Show Up. Opening the door, Naruto was standing at the door smiling at them. "Can I come in?" Three were stunned for a moment, but Temari was the first to react and nodded hurriedly. "Okay. Please come in." After entering the door, Naruto first observed the furnishings in the room. After finding that there was nothing special about it, he directly said his name. I want to meet your Kazekage-sama. Huh, what do you want to see Lord Kazekage for? Kankuro stopped him all of a sudden. Temari hurriedly glared at him, and asked Naruto calmly, what is the matter with you seeing Lord Kazekage? But he was secretly vigilant. What is he doing to see Kazekage at this time? Tomorrow is the time to implement the plan. Did he see something? However, there is nothing wrong with the look on his face. Naruto smiled and said, it's nothing important. We, Lord Hokage, want me to inform him of something. It's about the arrangement of tomorrow's finals. Temari and the others have no doubts. Since it was sent by Hokage, it's nothing to meet him. Anyway, he won't find anything. After all, this plan has the cover of the Chunin exam and the alliance agreement between the two parties, which can paralyze the site. Difficult to be found. Well, Lord Kazekage is inside, I'll take you there. Temari nodded. So, Temari brought Naruto into the room where Kazekage was, and Naruto's mood fluctuated slightly. There is no doubt that Kazekage is Orochimaru now, but after seeing him, what should he do? Are you going to expose him directly? Just when he was thinking about how to expose Orochimaru, he looked up and suddenly found that the room was empty. Huh, where is Lord Kazekage? Temari also made a surprised voice. Naruto frowned. He could still feel Orochimaru's breath, which means that this guy just left. It seems that he is avoiding him on purpose. How prudent, Orochimaru, he said silently in his heart. It seems that your Lord Kazekage doesn't want to see me. In that case, I have to say goodbye. Naruto turned his head and said helplessly. Temari smiled embarrassedly. Sorry, maybe Lord Kazekage has something to do with him temporarily. Hee. Maybe. Naruto smiled lightly. His thoughts changed, and he suddenly said, in this case, you can send me a journey. I also happen to have something to talk to you about. Temari couldn't help being stunned for a moment. Seeing the mysterious appearance of the blonde boy in front of her, she felt a little uneasy in her heart. Did he notice something? However, she is not so easily shaken. In that case, let's walk with him and see what he will say. Gaara and Kankuro watched Naruto and Temari leave the guest house. Gaara couldn't help muttering, Uzumaki Naruto, tomorrow, I can kill you. At this time, Naruto and Temari were walking down the road beside the river, one after another, and the bright moonlight reflected in the river. Temari finally couldn't help but said, Uzumaki Naruto, that's it, if you have anything, you can said. Naruto stopped when he heard the words, turned around and looked at her with a smile on his lips. Actually, you already know what I want to say, but you are still kept in the dark about some things. What are you talking about? Temari trembled inexplicably, looking at his clear eyes that seemed to have seen through everything, making her feel like she couldn't look directly, and her tone couldn't help being a little anxious. He, who had always been calm, became uneasy in front of him. Actually, I know about one of your plans, and in this plan, there is an inside story that you don't know. Naruto looked at Temari and said lightly. Temari's pupils shrank suddenly. When she heard Naruto's words, her heart skipped a beat, and her whole body's momentum skyrocketed, ready to take action at any time. However, at this moment, several kunai suddenly flew out of the air beside Naruto, targeting his vitals. Who moved the hand? Temari turned his head suddenly, but found that there was nothing in the air, and at the same time, a palpitating breath suddenly rushed to his face. Naruto seemed to be prepared. He took out kunai and waved it a few times quickly to block all the hidden weapons. At this time, a figure had already rushed towards Temari very quickly. Temari was shocked, and there was an ambush in his heart. But always vigilant, she hurriedly waved the huge fan in her hand, wanting to sweep away the people in the future. However, the speed of the approaching person was extremely fast, and Temari's fan couldn't touch the opponent's body at all, and the other party had already circled behind her. The next moment, with a muffled thud, Temari fainted. Orochimaru's figure appeared in front of Naruto, and a pair of snake eyes stared at him with a dangerous atmosphere. Naruto-kun, you know a lot. Naruto smiled faintly, and was not surprised by the appearance of Orochimaru, because he had smelled a faint dangerous breath in the air just now. Although he did not know how this dangerous breath came, I know, the only one who can bring this feeling to me is probably a Kage-level powerhouse like Orochimaru. Orochimaru, I said, I will fight against you to the end. From the moment you planted the curse on Sasu in front of me, you are destined to usher in my revenge. Naruto said coldly, you thought your disguise as Kazekage was perfect. What a mistake, Naruto-kun, I didn't expect you to be able to perceive this at such a young age. I really underestimated you. Orochimaru heard Naruto reveal his plan. Even if it was his Hanyang couldn't help but be shocked, not because of his strength, just because he has such a keen insight, but he still smiled on the surface. But, what if you know? There are no loopholes in the plan now, and the 3 generations can't find anything at all. Even if he knows it now, tomorrow's finals will definitely continue. As the leader of the 5 major ninja villages, if Konoha can't even take up this kind of challenge, then really decadent home. HMPH. Is that so? How can you be sure that I'm the only one who knows your plans? Naruto sneered. Chapter 70 Finals. Haha. Naruto-kun, although it's amazing that you can have such a mind at such a young age, it's not so easy for me, Orochimaru, to let you sabotage your plan. Orochimaru laughed. Naruto-kun, even if you report to the 3rd generation without evidence, it is estimated that you will not get the approval of the high-level group, right? The finals will still be held as usual, what can you do? Instead, you will be noticed by those suspicious guys. Will it cause trouble? Hearing this, Naruto fell silent. Indeed, as Orochimaru said, although the strength and talent shown by himself has been regarded by 3 generations, Kakashi and others, and they are also very trustworthy, most of Konoha still excludes him. In such a big environment, if he casually said Orochimaru's plan, it would only lead to suspicion. I had already thought of this before, but I didn't expect Orochimaru to be able to think so thoroughly. It seems that this guy paid a lot of attention to him. Seeing Naruto's silence, Orochimaru's mouth showed a proud arc, and suddenly said, how? Naruto-kun, this place Konoha is already rotten, do you want to come to my side? Witness this world with me. The truth, to be honest, I admire people like you very much. Orochimaru, can you put away your tricks? Naruto replied indifferently. I'm not one of those ignorant teenagers, and I'm not ignorant of the world. Orochimaru, you are really cunning like a loach. Barely, but tonight, I have to try and keep you. Having said this, Naruto's aura suddenly rose, and in an instant, he opened the curse seal, and the magic seal immortal power was applied to the whole body. There was a faint golden light on his body. Orochimaru was slightly taken aback, looking at Naruto's serious look. He laughed again. Naruto-kun, are you trying to expose me by fighting? Haha, you are so naive. Even if you curse in Yin's state, his strength has soared, but if you want to keep me, it's still too whimsical. Naruto didn't say a word, and when Orochimaru spoke, his figure turned into a golden light and shadow, and rushed in front of him. There was no fancy punch, and there was a chirping sound in the air. The speed of this punch had already broken through the limit. Orochimaru didn't expect to see Naruto's strength even after he had not seen him for a month, and he had improved so fast, even himself would be hard to resist. In an instant, he analyzed the situation and knew that he couldn't be in love, otherwise he would really be contained here. Spirituality. The next moment, Orochimaru summoned a huge khaki-colored snake with a single press of his palm. Stop him. Boom. Just as Naruto's fist was about to reach Orochimaru's side, the giant snake's tail slammed into it. Boom. A burst of smoke rose in the loud noise, completely obscuring Naruto's sight. Oops. Naruto was taken aback and rushed out of the area shrouded in smoke. He stomped on the head of the khaki-colored snake that was more than 10 meters high, but Orochimaru was no longer in sight. And the next moment, a burst of white smoke rose, and the big snake under Naruto's feet disappeared. After a while, when the scene calmed down, Naruto only saw the dirt pit that was hit by the big snake. As for Orochimaru and Temari, he didn't see a single one. So crafty, Naruto cursed inwardly. He originally wanted to tell Temari the truth to shake her, so that in tomorrow's final, she might be able to turn her back, but he didn't expect Orochimaru to go out in person and knock Temari unconscious. And although he said the fact that he knew their plan, the more important information Temari did not know. Moreover, the scary thing about Orochimaru is that he knows everyone very well. He knows that his Jinchuriki column power in Konoha is just a tool in the eyes of most high-level executives. He also knows that if he behaves, he knows too much. It would cause everyone's suspicion, so he wasn't worried that he knew about his plan. As long as nothing went wrong on his own side, what would it matter if someone on Konoha knew something? After all, the power is still in the hands of the top. The finals will continue. Standing in place for a while, Naruto sighed, and finally left. Facing the huge forces, his own strength was really weak. Old bosses are not so easy to overthrow. Only strength is the most fundamental thing to change everything, and I am not strong enough. Otherwise, just kill Orochimaru and nothing will happen. The next day, Konoha was very lively. The audience at the final venue not far from the village was already full of spectators from all over the world and the village. Most of them are ordinary people, but they are still very eager to follow this wonderful game that belongs to ninjas. At this time, it was just after 9 o'clock in the morning. In the final venue in the center of the auditorium, Naruto and others were already standing in 2 rows, standing there quietly to receive the attention of audiences from all over the world. The stands on both sides of the auditorium were also full of people, including Kakashi, Yuhi, Guy, Asuma and others, as well as their students, who also came here to cheer on their companions. Little Lee dragged his injured body to stand beside Guy, cheering for Neji. Sakura also continued to cheer for Naruto and Seijutsu. Also, Hinata also stood beside Yuhi, watching Naruto silently, folded his hands and prayed quietly. In the final venue, Naruto was observing the people around him. Neji, the first match was between myself and him. If you made Hinata like this, even if you are a genius, even if you have difficulties, this time you have to teach you a lesson for Hinata. Zuiyu, I haven't seen you for a month. It seems that the momentum has changed again, and it seems to have become stronger. I don't know what will happen in the next game with Gaara. And, Temari, Orochimaru knocked her unconscious last night, and it seems that she took her away when she escaped. I wonder if she realized Kazukage's identity. Gaara, this guy is staring at himself with a staring expression. Naruto glanced to the side. Can't help but have a big head. Your opponent is Sayu. Shikamaru with a listless and troubled face. Naruto looked around, and finally turned his eyes to the stand in front of him. The 3-generation-old man, Orochimaru, was sitting down accompanied by the guard. Chapter 71 The First One. The atmosphere at the scene was not without enthusiasm. Although Naruto stood in the final venue, he still heard some of the comments in the audience. Most of them are looking forward to Seijutsu, who is a descendant of the Uchiha clan, and Neji, a genius boy from the Hyuga clan, has a very high attention rate. As the 2 famous Konoha, those spectators who came from the outside to watch the lively are of course very optimistic. In contrast, because almost no one knows Naruto's identity, he seems isolated and helpless, and his popularity is obviously not as high as that of Sasuke and Neji. However, people who really know Naruto's strength, such as Kakashi, Enko and other Jonin, and all of Sakura's comrades know that this win is basically Naruto. As Naruto's former teacher, Iruka, he also knew his talent and strength. Seeing Naruto standing on this finals venue and receiving everyone's attention at the moment, he seemed to have seen his younger brother stand out. Feeling, rejoicing. The final is about to begin. When it was announced that the first match was between Naruto and Neji, the examiner Shiranui Genma came to the arena with bamboo sticks in his mouth, and asked all the players except Naruto and Neji to return to the auditorium first. Amid the enthusiastic shouts, the others stepped back, and the two of Naruto stood quietly in the center of the arena. "Naruto, come on," Sakura shouted first, and saw her excited face with her hands clenched into small fists, as if it was not Naruto who was competing, but herself. Not to be outdone, Ino cheered loudly, "Naruto, you must win, I want to invite you to dinner after the finals." When Sakura heard it, she didn't expect Ino to be so insidious, so she took this opportunity to invite Naruto to dinner. Immediately, he rushed to her place to reason. In fact, Hinata also wanted to shout cheers like Sakura Ino, but because of her character, she didn't dare to make a big splash like the two of them. She could only use her own way to closely watch Naruto's silent prayer. Compared with Naruto, Neji has more support than him. Almost half of the people support Neji. After all, the name of the genius of the Hyuga family is not for nothing. At this time, Sayu and the others had returned to their respective groups in the stands and began to watch the game with all their attention. In Sayu's heart, although Neji was the genius of the previous session, she knew Naruto's strength without doubting the final victory. The one is Naruto. Instead, what she cares about now is what kind of tricks Naruto will have to defeat him during the game. The game begins. Amidst the anticipation of everyone, the examiner finally announced the start of the game, and as soon as the order was given, both Neji and Naruto took a step back. Seeing Naruto standing there casually, Neji's eyes were slightly excited. "I know that you have hidden strength, the guy who can use the blinking technique that only Jonin can do. Let me see how much strength you have hidden." Naruto smiled slightly. Neji's gentle fist has been practiced to a very strong level, but, no matter how good his physical skills are, if he can't match his speed, it will be futile. If that's the case, let's try his physical skills first. Thinking of this, he made a mistake and rushed towards Neji in an instant, holding the key point of Kuiji in his hand. Neji turned slightly to the side, avoiding Naruto's blow, and then he reached out with his palm and pointed at the acupuncture point on his chest exposed by Naruto. Naruto had already noticed that. His body suddenly turned inconceivably, and he avoided Neji's palm lightly. Instead, his body quickly circled behind Neji, without a single stroke, and pointed to his vital point again. Neji frowned, quickly waved his palm, and hit Naruto's wrist. Unexpectedly, in the close combat, his own skills could not suppress Naruto, but he was forced to defend twice because he pointed at the key points. After pushing Naruto away, Neji thought to himself. The figures of the two people in the field kept staggering. Naruto's figure was erratic, and the weight was light, while Neji was defensive and airtight, and for a while, he was deadlocked there. But the discerning person knew at a glance that Neji was at a disadvantage, and neither of them had used their full strength. Boom! Suddenly, Naruto's fist and Neji's palm met fiercely, and they both bounced back. Neji stared at Naruto with a dignified expression. He thought that Naruto's physical skills were so powerful. The speed is faster than that of the little Lee who specializes in steel fists, and his movements are compared to the straight steel fists, and he brings a bit of gentle fist skills. Really great. Neji was secretly shocked, thinking that his physical skills could definitely suppress him, but now it seems that this battle is extremely difficult. Compared with Neji's dignifiedness, Naruto seemed much more relaxed. Through the test just now, he had a general idea of Neji's strength. Needless to say, in terms of speed, except for Little Lee, even Zuoyu was a step behind him. And in the skills of close combat, Neji is also worthy of the name of genius. Compared with Hinata's gentle fist, he is obviously much stronger, and the two are not on the same level at all. The taiju duel between the two immediately shocked everyone present. As we all know, the Hyuga clan has always been the strongest in taijutsu, but now there is this Naruto who can suppress Neji in taijutsu. People were shocked. Hyuga Hiyashi, who was sitting in the auditorium, looked at the two figures in the field with a focused expression. Hanabi, who was beside him, couldn't help but ask, "Father, can brother Neji defeat that guy?" It's impossible to say. Although Neji is a rare genius in the Hyuga family, Uzumaki Naruto is really unfathomable, and I can't see it clearly. Hyuga Hiyashi said solemnly. Really, Uzumaki Naruto is so powerful. After listening to his father's words, Hanabi couldn't help but pouted, and was secretly unhappy. What's so great about a guy who looks so inferior? At this moment, the field changed again. Naruto suddenly took out a bunch of kunai shurikens, threw them at Neji from a distance, and quickly formed a seal with both hands, shuriken. The art of shadow clone. For a moment, those hidden weapons thrown by Naruto were divided into 2 in midair, 2 divided into 4, and 4 divided into 8. In a blink of an eye, there was a dense rain of hidden weapons in midair. Compared with the hidden weapons in the Tenten scroll, this is also a way of winning by quantity, but Naruto is more concise and convenient to use. As long as you carry a small amount of hidden weapons, you can use ninjutsu to materialize them and make a lot of them. Come on, this made the Tenten standing in the stands a burst of envy. This technique was learned by Naruto stealthily from the 3rd generation, and now it is quite handy to use it. But Neji didn't seem too panicked when facing the rain of hidden weapons. When the overwhelming hidden weapons came to him, he swung his hands and put on a mysterious posture. Chapter 72 for Hinata. As soon as this pose came out, Hyuga Hiyashi in the audience stood up immediately. This is revolving heaven. I didn't expect Neji to master this secret technique. Hiyashi muttered in shock. At the same time, Neji finally used this technique. He turned around suddenly, and a chakra whirlwind suddenly rose in place, surrounding his entire body, and Naruto's hidden weapons all fell on above the blue chakra hood. There was a constant clanging sound, and then they turned into white smoke and disappeared. After a while, all the hidden weapons were deflected, and Neji finally stopped. He stood gracefully, looking so elegant in his white robe, that a large number of girls in the audience suddenly screamed. And Naruto was standing in front of him, with a faint smile on his lips, and he was expected to make this move. Uzumaki Naruto, I admit that you are very powerful. But next, I have to be serious. Neji raised his palms and said proudly. Speaking, Neji's figure had already rushed over and slapped Naruto fiercely. The speed was faster than before, making people unable to react. When Naruto was stunned for a moment, Neji was already close to him, only to see that he was short, his hands were open, and he immediately put on a starting gesture. Gentle fist 8 trigrams 64 palms. Neji didn't dare to underestimate Naruto, and when he rushed up, he used his own trick. Now you're in my 8 trigrams field. There's absolutely no escape, Neji said confidently. And the audience didn't expect that Neji would actually make this move, and suddenly screamed in surprise, and Hiyashi's face was even more incredible. Hanabi, look at it, this is the strength of the genius of the Hyuga family. You study hard, it will be of great benefit to you in the future. After being surprised, Hiyashi turned to teach his daughter. On the other side, Hinata looked at Naruto with a worried look on her face. 8 trigrams palms were powerful. As the eldest Miss main clan of the Hyuga family, she couldn't be more clear. The acupoints of the hit person were instantly closed. The chakra stops flowing, it is like a waste person. If Naruto is hit, he will definitely lose if he can't use the chakra next. So, Hinata is now worried and wants to cry out. Yuhi, who was beside him, frowned slightly when he saw Hinata's nervous face. Hinata's body hadn't recovered yet, so he couldn't be too excited. After all, if the injured heart was hit again, it would definitely injured again. She couldn't help but patted Hinata's shoulder lightly and comforted her softly. Hinata, don't worry, Naruto is very strong. He's not so easy to fail, and your body needs a lot of rest now, and your emotions shouldn't be too excited. Quote. With Yuhi's comfort, Hinata finally calmed down. At this time, Neji had launched a fierce attack on Naruto, and 8 trigrams 64 palms hit him hard with every palm. The sound of bang 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 caused everyone on the stage to scream involuntarily. Sakura Ino shouted worriedly, Naruto. Sakura also clenched her fists, and seemed to be very nervous, but Kakashi and other Jonin showed no expressions and seemed not to worry at all. Finally, the 64 palms all slammed on Naruto, and Naruto's body flew backwards heavily. However, there was no expression of joy on Neji's face, instead he frowned and stared cautiously around. Boom! The next moment, the Naruto that was knocked into the air turned into a white smoke and dissipated. Shadow clone. Seeing this, Neji's Byakugan searched the surroundings with all his strength, scanning the full range of 360 degrees, including the underground, not letting go of every corner. Suddenly, he slammed his palm towards the midair behind him. Boom! In an instant, a fist landed on his palm. It was Naruto. The two faced each other with one punch and one palm, and opened a distance again. It's just that Neji is no longer so calm at this time. Instead, he sees sweat on his forehead, and his heart is full of shock. How does he know his blind spot? If it wasn't for the momentary thought that he had just now, I'm afraid he would have been hit by him long ago. How did you do it? Neji yelled at Naruto. This is a secret that only belongs to him. Why would Naruto know it and just attack from his own blind spot? Naruto smiled and didn't answer, but said, Neji, I want to defeat you, it's just a thought. Neji was stunned for a moment, but he didn't expect Naruto to say such arrogant words, and immediately became angry. You underestimate me, Hyuga Neji too. Haha, I didn't underestimate you, I was just a little unhappy with you. Naruto smiled lightly. A guy like you who, by virtue of his own genius, seeks revenge on people who are weaker than you, is actually just a weakling. What did you say? Am I wrong? Hinata and you have no grievances or hatreds. Strictly speaking, he is still your cousin, but what did you do to her that day? You just spread your dissatisfaction and resentment on her. Now, Hinata is still seriously injured. What is someone like you who is not weak? Naruto stared at Neji and said suddenly. Saying these words, Naruto also sighed inwardly. For nothing else, he just wanted to breathe a sigh of relief for Hinata. After all, Neji beat her up like that day. If he was on the side, he would definitely stop it. It's a pity I'm not here, and I've been regretting it for the past 2 days. Today, I finally found the opportunity to let out this breath. After saying these words, Naruto didn't care what Neji's reaction was, and his aura soared. In an instant, a powerful aura comparable to the elite Jonin enveloped the surrounding venue, and even Shiranui Genma on the side was shocked. Eyes. This chakra, it's so strong. Naruto actually released such a strong chakra. Is it for Hinata? Feeling this chakra far surpassing Genin, everyone's reaction was extremely unexpected. Looking to the side of Hinata. On the other side, Hinata was already shocked by what Naruto said. She didn't expect Naruto to vent his anger for herself, which made her heart extremely sweet. Naruto. Chapter 73 Second Round. Feeling Naruto's unparalleled aura, Neji seemed to be in the mud, and he was so overwhelmed that he couldn't breathe. What do you know? However, under this powerful momentum, Neji also burst into unwillingness in his heart and shouted at Naruto. As a separated family, I have been engraved with the main clan's curse seal. How do you understand the pain that I can't master my own destiny? He suddenly pulled down the forehead guard, and the ugly curse seal rune engraved on his forehead seemed to be a bloody rune at the moment. The scars are exposed to everyone's eyes. It turned out that behind the genius, there is also such a helpless and bitter story. This is what most people think. However, this is an internal matter of the Hyuga clan, and others can only sigh, but can't do anything for him. Looking at this hideous curse mark, Naruto sighed slightly. Indeed, your destiny is tightly bound by this curse mark and cannot be freed, but as long as you keep getting stronger, you will be able to break free from the curse mark one day. Besides, I think no matter how unfair your own destiny is, you can't spread your resentment on others. And you can't spread your anger on innocent Hinata. If it's a man, you should go to the source of all this. Hyuga clan. Neji shuddered, looked at Naruto, and muttered to himself, are you free from bondage? This is simply impossible. right? You, someone else, said it so easily. You don't understand at all. Neji roared. His heart was in chaos. He didn't care about anything. He directly pounced on Naruto and delivered his most powerful blow. However, Naruto just swayed, and just when Neji's palm was about to hit his chest, his figure had quickly circled around Neji's back. At the same time, a kunai was gently placed on Neji's neck. You lost, Naruto said lightly. So fast. Everyone's expressions couldn't help but be startled. At that moment, even the eyesight of the Jonins could only see a trace of afterimage. Even if the speed is compared to Guy, the strong martial artist, it's not much worse. Neji stood there blankly, with no one in front of him, only the cold touch on his neck made him finally wake up. Why, you are so strong. Neji lowered his head in frustration, raised his hands in surrender, and asked Naruto. Naruto retracted kunai, patted him on the shoulder, and smiled slightly. As long as you have a strong heart and the courage to break your destiny, anything is possible. Break fate, Neji murmured involuntarily. Okay, examiner, the game is over, can we announce the result? Naruto said to Shiranui Genma, seeing that Neji had surrendered, and he didn't have any fighting spirit now. The first game, Naruto Uzumaki won. Shiranui Genma was stunned for a moment, and then he announced that he never expected Naruto to win so easily. From beginning to end, Naruto's performance was extremely easy. This is really amazing, surprising. It was only then that there was a burst of enthusiastic shouting from the audience, and Naruto's words also made the blood of most of the people present. Yes, what does it matter if you are weak now? As long as you have a heart of courage to break your destiny, you have nothing to fear. Even if he died, at least he had resisted his fate, which was 10,000 times better than those who were cowardly at the mercy of fate. That's so handsome, Naruto. Seeing Naruto slowly exiting the stage and returning to the stands of the auditorium, Ino rushed over, hugged Naruto's neck and wanted to kiss her, and her eyes were also full of all the little stars. Hey, Ino, you dare to attack Naruto. Sakura quickly pulled Ino away, then looked at Naruto with a slightly yuhi face. Congratulations, you have won. Well, thank you for cheering me on. Naruto's face showed a bright smile. At this moment, his smile seemed to be the sun, which was so desirable. Zuo-yu, who was on the side, came over slowly at this time, and congratulated lightly. Congratulations, Naruto. However, her eyes were a little afraid to look at his smiling face. This smiling face that once made him hate, now makes him feel that he is afraid to look directly. Zuo-yu secretly thought, he has become so strong, but he is still far behind. At this time, Shiranui Genma suddenly announced the start of the second exam. Second, Uchiha Hasuki vs Sandstorm Gaara. Zuiyu, you're on the field next. Naruto looked at Zuiyu and said seriously. Gaara is very strong. You must be careful, don't force yourself. Do you know? Zuo-yu heard the words, although she heard that Naruto was caring about herself, but she was very dissatisfied and secretly thought, even if I can't beat you, can I still beat Gaara? Naruto, how dare you underestimate me? I will definitely prove it to you. Thinking of this, Zuo-yu snorted lightly and walked directly into the venue without saying anything. At this time, Gaara was already standing in the arena, looking at Zuo-yu with a blank expression. You are very strong, but compared to Uzumaki Naruto, you still have no value for me to kill. Gaara said indifferently after the match started. When Zuo-yu heard this, her aura suddenly surged, Sharingan turned on, and looked at him with a frosty face. Really? Then try it. Maybe I will kill you. That's the descendants of Uchiha. The first one is the Hyuga family, the second one is the Uchiha family. What an eye-opener today. The audience immediately began to discuss. Yeah, it's a pity that Hyuga Neji lost to that blonde boy. I hope Uchiha's genius won't fail again this time. That's not necessarily true. That Yuhi's hair looks great too. Just as everyone was talking about it, Gaara Sasuke finally fought. On the other hand, Naruto frowned and quietly watched the surroundings. Suddenly, he saw several ANBU members from the back of the auditorium begin to move carefully. It seems that those are spies. He looked at the audience on the opposite side again, and noticed that Tamari Konkuro, Maki and others suddenly became nervous. Although they were pretending to watch the game, they kept looking towards the place where Kazekage and Hokage were. Looking around. Tamari's expression was obviously hesitant, and it seemed that what happened last night made her feel uneasy. Chapter 74 Chaos. Hinata's soft and shy voice suddenly came from beside him. Naruto, thank you, thank you. Naruto turned his head and saw that Hinata was wearing a white kimono. His head was slightly lowered, his face was dizzy, and he couldn't help but smile. Hee, Hinata, this is what I should do. Who told you to be so cute? Naruto. Hearing Naruto saying that she was cute, Hinata's face suddenly changed. If the two of them were alone, she wouldn't be so shy even if Naruto said that, but now there are people around. People, especially Sakura Ino's eyes have been fixed on themselves. This is really embarrassing. Naruto actually said that in front of everyone. However, her heart is more joy and sweetness. By the way, Hinata, you're not completely healthy yet. You need to rest well and don't run around. Naruto said, looking at her delicate body with a slightly pale face. Hinata nodded obediently. Feeling Naruto's concern, Hinata was surrounded by a huge sense of happiness for a while, and she wanted to throw herself into his arms immediately. At this time, there was also a change in the field of play. The battle between Zuiyu and Gaara had entered a white-hot stage. Under the stimulation of the Thunder Attribute Chakra, Zuiyu showed the fastest speed and was very light and fast beside him. Flashing, constantly looking for opportunities to attack, and Gaara's sand can only passively defend. Naruto noticed that Gaara's expression seemed to be very impatient. In this Chunin exam, Gaara actually encountered 3 times his opponents who suppressed him in speed: Naruto, Little Lee, and Sasu. Unable to exert all his strength, at this moment, he really has the urge to burst out. Chidori when he couldn't attack for a long time. Immediately, countless thunder lights gathered in his palm, which made the audience stunned for a while. I'll use this trick to solve you this time. Zuo-yu said coldly. Gaara like lightning. Kai. The defense of killing was torn apart. Zuiyu's arm slammed into Gaara's defense, and a muffled roar came out. Zuiyu's face was slightly happy, and he was hurt. But immediately, her face suddenly turned to the side, because at this moment a huge force suddenly grabbed her arm, almost tearing her entire arm off. Not good. In the panic, Zuiyu broke out the Thunder Attribute Chakra again, and broke free of that powerful force. After taking a closer look, I found that after the sandballs scattered in front of me, what was exposed was a monster-like face. What is this? For the first time, Zuo-yu felt a little bit of fear in her heart, because she had never seen a person turn into such a terrifying posture. Who is this guy? Ho, I'm going to kill you. How dare you make me bleed? I'm going to kill you. Gaara ran wild. At this moment, the atmosphere in the venue changed greatly, because the audience didn't know Gaara's identity at all, and with Gaara's roar, an ominous and evil chakra spread, and finally, Jonin, who was present, felt that something was wrong. This kind of momentum is simply not something that ordinary people can have. And that form seems to be the legendary tailed beast, Shukaku of One-Tailed Sand. Kabuto, who was hiding behind the scenes, performed a large area of slumber demonic illusion. The ordinary audience present, as well as the weak genin, fell into demonic illusion one after another. Naruto stood silently on the spot, his expression unchanged. This demonic illusion was easy for him to crack, and the chakra broke out a little bit. Hokage in the stands were also held on the roof by Orochimaru at this time, and opened the 4 purple flame barrier. Everything went as planned in the original play, and Naruto quietly watched the start of the riot in the field. Sand Ninja Village Maki first led the Sand Ninja Village and Otogakur Village ninjas who were present to launch an attack, and when he saw the Konoha ninja, he rushed forward. And those high-level spies hiding behind the scenes also launched a sneak attack on Konoha's Jonin elites at this time. I didn't expect things to turn out like this. The Chunin exam is no longer possible, Kakashi said with a solemn expression. He pulled out his kunai to block the attack of one of the enemies, and said helplessly. Sakura didn't fall into the demonic illusion. After she helped Ino solve the demonic illusion, the six gods came to Naruto anxiously and said, Naruto, what happened? Why did it become like this? Naruto didn't speak, because at this time Hinata had fallen into demonic illusion and fell into his arms. Because of her injury, he didn't wake her up either, but picked her up and handed it over to Hyuga. Only then did he turn around said to Sakura Ino. Now Konoha is caught in the enemy's attack, 3 generations of old men are trapped on the roof, Kakashi-sensei and the others are also inseparable, and now we can only rely on us. Naruto just noticed that Gaara was taken away from the scene by Temari Kankuro, while Sasu accepted the task of the examiner and chased him out. Now he must go to support Sasu first. After all, after Shukaku broke out, ordinary people could not be subdued, even Kakashi. Jonin, there is no way. Ino, you and Shikamaru Choji are defending here. The Inoshikacho combination of the 3 of you is here, I believe it will help. Naruto said calmly. Yeah, I'll listen to you. Ino also felt that Naruto was right, nodded and went to wake Choji and Shikamaru. The others, after a little panic, under the leadership of their respective teachers Jonin, launched a counterattack one after another. Naruto, what should we do now? Sakura was flustered by the constant fighting sounds around her, but she kept silently encouraging herself in her heart not to panic, absolutely not to panic. She couldn't always hide behind Naruto, and is to face everything bravely. Isn't this a good opportunity? Thinking of this, Sakura suddenly said, let's go after Sayu. She is absolutely unable to deal with Gaara and the others. Naruto nodded, seeing that Sakura would be thinking even in the rush, thinking that she had grown a bit, and smiled slightly. Well, as I intended, but I'll go after the pursuit. You just stay here, don't get too far from Kakashi-sensei. Forget it, the art of shadow clone. Bang, a Naruto clone appeared next to him, and Naruto said, Sakura, just stay with me as shadow clone. I don't have much time, I'll go first. Naruto, Sakura whispered. Watching Naruto go away, he couldn't help but murmured in a low voice, you must take care. Chapter 75 Chase. Naruto chased him all the way, because now his strength is very strong, and he can faintly feel the direction of Gaara's Shukaku's chakra, so even if he doesn't need the ninja dog Parker to lead the way, he can still go to track it alone. All the way, the speed of the mountain was full, and the surrounding scenery instantly turned into an afterimage. On the way, Naruto also saw a large number of ninjas constantly attacking the village, as well as the summoned beasts belonging to Orochimaru, and all kinds of large snakes. Fortunately, the Jonins in the village can still resist it for the time being. Now, he must catch up with Gaara as soon as possible. In a moment, he had chased into the woods outside the village. Zuiyu is fighting with Temari. Temari's large-scale futon, wind style, is blocking the advance of Zuiyu wave after wave, and Zuiyu can't break through for a while, can only watch Kankuro take Gaara take away. Originally their plan was to let Gaara also participate in the battle, but he accidentally ran away in the middle of the game. Although this successfully distracted most people's attention, Kage's sneak attack for 3 generations was successful, but in this way, they had also lost a few combat power. In order not to affect the battle situation, Temari and Kankuro could only take him away temporarily, and stabilize it before attacking. However, Zuiyu's mission is to chase them, so naturally she won't let them go easily. Gaara is now not only her opponent, but also her enemy, so at this moment, Zuiyu's heart has long been determined to clean up herself. However, Temari's strength is also very strong. Own-handed futon wind style ninjutsu forced Sayu to be unable to get close at all. Large tracts of branches were cut off by the powerful futon wind style, and Sayu could only hide in the trunk of the tree for a while. after waiting for her ninjutsu to pass. In order to delay the time, Tamari released chakra desperately. After continuing to release a few futon wind style Tamari chakra finally bottomed out, and at this time, Zuiyu's almost finally arrived. She quickly escaped from behind the big tree, and she quickly threw a few handfuls out of her hands. Kunai, with that precise kunai throwing technique, covered all the blind spots where Tamari was in all directions. Although Tamari has noticed the trajectory of these kunai, she has no choice but to have enough chakra to use the powerful futon wind style to blow all these hidden weapons away, so she can only pull out the kunai to resist the kunai down. A screeching noise, and Tamari managed to stop all the kunai, but he didn't realize that a kunai that was sticking to the detonating talisman had been inserted under his feet. And at this time, the detonating talisman was burning hissing. Not good. Tamari screamed badly in her heart, and hurriedly backed away. With a loud bang, it exploded, and the flames accompanied the thick smoke to lift Tamari's body out. Tamari had jumped a distance before that, but was shocked by the explosion, and his blood was surging, and he fell to the ground. At this moment, Zuiyu stepped forward and looked at her condescendingly. You lost. If you want to stop me, you are not qualified. Tamari bit Kiba and fainted immediately. Zuiyu snorted lightly, and with a flick of her figure, she chased out again. When Naruto arrived, Tamari just woke up, and when she saw the figure of Naruto chasing, she endured the pain and immediately blocked him. Uzumaki Naruto, I forbid you to take another step. Seeing this, Naruto ignored her, and with a flash, he bypassed her and chased forward. Tamari was stunned. This guy actually ignored him. After biting on Kiba, she also started to catch up with her fastest speed. Uzumaki Naruto, stop for me, Tamari shouted loudly, but Naruto was much faster than her, and suddenly pulled away from her. She could only hang far behind. Naruto also heard Tamari's voice, but he didn't have the time to stop and fight her now. Going after Gaara was the key, so he let Tamari chase after him. Anyway, when he caught up with Gaara, she too it can't play a role, it can't hinder itself at all. After chasing him for a while, Naruto suddenly frowned. He felt that Gaara's breath was getting stronger and more violent, and his breath had stopped. Could it be that he was already fighting with Sayu? Gaara, who had turned half of her body into a monster in front of her, and couldn't help swallowing secretly. Her eyes turned to Kankuro, who was standing far away from him. His face was full of fear. Kill you. I'm going to kill you. Gaara stared at Zuiyu in front of her. Her body was full of terror, and the ominous chakra continued to permeate, and a huge arm of sand suddenly formed, thinking of Zuiyu the direction of the violent grab. Suzuki Hand's fast hand seal, Chidori. A large amount of thunder light condensed in her palm, facing the palm of the sand coming from the pavement, she fiercely greeted it. Chi chi chi. Boom. The blue electric light cut through the sand, and Zuiyu leaned down slightly and kept sprinting forward, trying to tear all the sand in front of her. However, before halfway through the rush, her Chidori could no longer be maintained, so she stopped reluctantly, gasping for breath. This time, she almost consumed half of her chakra. But even Gaara's arm can't dash away. Gaara's attack was blocked, he became even more violent. Chakra suddenly soared, and the killing intent in his eyes became more violent. Facing him, Zuiyu was like a candle in the wind. On the other side, Kankuro was already stunned. In Sand Ninja Village, he had never seen a genin who could compete with Gaara like this. This genius of the Uchiha family could actually compete with the transformed Gaara. Completely exceeded his estimate. The situation has developed to this point, which is beyond the scope of what he can handle. Originally, as long as Gaara was given a tranquilizer, he could calm down temporarily, but this time Gaara's violent degree exceeded expectations, even the tranquilizer. It has already expired. If he is made into a complete body, everything around this place will be destroyed. And you and others will definitely not be spared. Kankuro's heart was filled with panic for a while. Chapter 76 arrived. The more frightened Kankuro had to run away and hide, for fear of being affected by Gaara. And Zuiyu is still fighting Gaara desperately, but unfortunately, Gaara's current state, chakra is far more than Zuiyu, and Zuiyu's chakra is not much, although Chidori can still resist Gaara to a certain extent the sand, but after all, this technique cannot be abused without limit. After using it 3 times in a row, Sayu can no longer condense the form of Chidori, and there is only a trace of electric light in her hand, which quickly goes out. Zuiyu kept panting, her face covered with sweat. How much she hoped that there would be another chakra in her body. However, the power that could be used in the original curse seal was also sealed, and he couldn't mobilize it for a while. Hateful. Am I going to die here? Cannot be done. I'm not reconciled. I haven't avenged yet. I haven't defeated Naruto yet. How can you die so easily? However, Gaara's claws of sand are already coming. Zuiyu has no doubt that if she is caught by this, she will definitely be shattered. At this moment, Zuiyu's heart gave birth to an extremely strong desire to survive. Between this life and death, the curse mark on Zuiyu's neck suddenly became hot, and the power of nature in it was mobilized by her. The next moment, I saw an extremely powerful chakra suddenly emerging from her body. The curse mark covered her entire face like fire. At this moment, Zuiyu felt this powerful feeling again, and the chakra in her body was about to burst forth. Chidori. In an instant, Sayu hand sealed again, the tyrannical thunder light flashed again, and with a squeak, Gaara's sand was torn to shreds once again. And the next moment, Zuiyu's figure didn't stop, and she dashed towards Gaara at a speed twice as fast as before. With Sharingan, her figure has almost turned into a streamer. Gaara only felt a flash in front of him, and the next moment, Zuiyu had already appeared in front of him. Roar! With a roar, Gaara suddenly rolled up thousands of sand waves, covering Zuiyu in front of her. However, Zuiyu stabbed forward fiercely. Sizzle! The thunder light of Chidori broke through the sand waves, and under Gaara's unbelievable gaze, came to him. Kai! Trace of Yin Yuhi's blood splattered out, and Zuiyu's palm was finally blocked by Gaara's sand. Chidori, who had lost most of his sprinting power, just cut through the sand armor on Gaara's chest and stabbed him. In this way, Gaara still couldn't believe that he would be hurt by her again. He was so angry that he finally broke out. The other half of the body also instantly transformed into the form of a monster, and the entire body was immediately surrounded by the form of Shukaku of sand, which looked like a miniature version of Shukaku. Zuiyu didn't know Shukaku, so she didn't know what kind of monster this was, but she already felt that Gaara's aura had increased again, and she had completely suppressed her current aura. You wait to die, Uchiha Sasu. Gaara almost lost her mind now. Roaring, the monster-like palm grabbed Sayu's arm and threw her out. With a bang, Zuiyu's body was smashed to the ground, and a pit was suddenly smashed into it. Amidst the dust, Zuiyu just struggled to stand up, when a thick yellow sand fell on top of her head. Boom! The yellow sand fell to the ground, stirring up thousands of layers of sand waves and smoke. Zuiyu dodged to the side in embarrassment, dodging this attack by risk. However, there is too much sand in Gaara. Even if Zuiyu has the blessing of the curse, she is still unable to adapt to the power of the curse that is not fully activated. The sand slapped fiercely and flew out. In midair, Zuiyu could only watch as she was caught by his sand. Ha ha ha, I finally caught you. Let's see how you run this time. I'm going to crush you. I'll crush you like an ant. After catching Zuiyu, Gaara shouted excitedly, not knowing what it was. Shukaku's consciousness was still his own, which made Kankuro, who was watching secretly not far away, tremble. Done. It has fully manifested itself, and there is no way to stop it from now on. Kankuro turned around and wanted to run away, but saw a figure flash past in front of him, followed by Temari. Looking closely, it turned out to be Uzumaki Naruto. Hey, Temari, Gaara has transformed into a full body, don't go and die. He hurriedly called Temari to a halt. When Temari heard this, her face was startled. Just as she was about to stop, she saw Naruto rushing over without stopping for a moment. She bit Kiba and bit her head and chased after him. "Hey, are you going to die?" Kankuro looked shocked. When Naruto heard Kankuro's words and sensed Sasuke's chakra, he was already very anxious. When he arrived at the scene, he happened to see Sasuke being covered by a lot of sand and pinched in midair. Situation. Sasuke. Naruto couldn't help being startled, hurriedly dodged up, his hands instantly hand seal, futon wind style wind cut. The sharp wind blade flew fiercely towards the middle of the sand arm. The compressed wind blade easily ripped Sanji's arm at the waist, and the yellow sand surrounding Zuiyu also scattered in an instant, and Zuiyu's delicate body fell to the ground along with the yellow sand. Naruto's figure flashed, and he hurriedly stepped forward and hugged her by the waist. "Zuoyu, are you alright?" She looked down quickly, but saw that the curse mark on Zuoyu's face was slowly fading, revealing her delicate face, but her brows were frowning and she seemed to be in great pain. Naruto, you are finally here," Zuiyu said weakly. At this moment, her heart suddenly calmed down, the dangerous environment around her seemed to disappear all of a sudden, and she just wanted to take a good sleep in this warm embrace. It's like a person who has been swaying for a long time in the wind and rain returns to the sheltered harbor. "Thank you for your hard work, leave it to me here." Naruto smiled slightly, dodged to a big tree, put her down, and hand seal separated a shadow clone. Let shadow clone look at Zuoyu temporarily, he then rushed towards Gaara again. Chapter 77 Shukaku. At this time, Temari also came to Zuiyu's side. Zuiyu suddenly became vigilant, struggled to stand up and said, "What are you going to do?" Naruto's clone stopped her and said to Temari, "If you want to fight now, even if I'm just a clone, you won't be able to please." When Temari heard the two's attitude was very tough, he waved his hand with a wry smile and said, "Don't get me wrong, I don't have time to fight with you now, the most important thing at the moment is to stop Gaara. Also, Uzumaki Naruto, let me ask you, yesterday who was the figure that knocked me out at night?" It's too late to say this now, you'll know everything when you get back to Konoha." Naruto's clone shook his head and didn't want to say anything. Zuoyu looked at them curiously, wondering what happened to them last night. Could it be that Naruto met her last night? Gaara was very angry. He could have pinched Sayu to death, but Naruto jumped out again. Now that's it. He finally has a formidable opponent. Roar! Anyone who dares to hinder me will die. Seeing Naruto rushing towards him, Gaara raised a pile of yellow sand and slapped him fiercely. Naruto's figure flashed again and again, avoiding Gaara's yellow sand, and came to him in a moment. Rasengan. The blue chakra ball was printed on Gaara's body in the blink of an eye, but Gaara also covered the surface of his body with yellow sand in time. Limited, Rasengan just broke the Shukaku body, and the opposite Gaara didn't cause much damage, and it was just a little blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. But despite this, Gaara was also injured internally by Rasengan, which made him even more tyrannical. When he was in the air, he once again rolled up a piece of wild sand and rushed towards Naruto overwhelmingly. In the face of this indiscriminate attack, Naruto couldn't dodge at all, but fortunately there were big trees around him to cover him, so he quickly hid behind the tree, and only after the blast of sand passed, did he stand up again. At this time, Gaara's momentum has risen again. Naruto knows that if he doesn't completely defeat him, he will never be able to stop the Shukaku in his body. Therefore, before Gaara can attack again, he has already divided several shadows. Clone. Every shadow clone condensed Rasengan and attacked Gaara. Gaara waved the yellow sand and broke several clones in an instant, but due to too many clones of Naruto, several still rushed in front of him. Boom boom boom. Rasengan in the hands of the three Naruto clones successfully hit Gaara. Countless vigor almost crushed Gaara alive. Fu! Gaara roared in pain. Temari and Kankuro, who had been fighting not far away, couldn't help but stunned. How strong is Uzumaki Naruto? He actually pressed and beat the full-body Gaara, and looking at Gaara's appearance, he seemed to be dying. What a horrible guy, Tamari couldn't help muttering. Kankuro also came to Tamari at this time, with awe in his eyes. I think we are tired of fighting against such a guy. After a while, the 3 shadow clones dissipated, and Naruto walked over and looked at Gaara, who was lying on the ground half dead. You still don't admit defeat. Gaara was lying on the ground and was hit by 3 Rasengans on his body. Even if he had the protection of sand, he couldn't bear the powerful energy. At this time, he was seriously injured in his body, but the more this happened, the more he felt excited. The killing intent in the heart is stronger. Uzumaki Naruto, you are the first opponent who can beat me like this. Gaara exclaimed in a low voice. So this time, I have to completely release that power. Hearing this, Naruto suddenly felt a more powerful chakra erupt from Gaara's body, and at the same time, his roar became even more intense. Seeing this, Naruto hurriedly backed away for a distance, bit his finger and made a few prints, and slapped his palm on the ground. The art of psychic. Shukaku of sand. Boom. Boom. After 2 loud bangs, 2 hill-like figures appeared in the forest. Immediately, large tracts of trees were crushed, and a gust of wind was blown up, causing half of the forest to sway. Danger. Retreat. The moment he saw Shukaku appear, Tamari Kankuro was shocked, full of fear, and hurriedly retreated into the distance, and Naruto clone had to take Sayu away from this area. After all, that kind of with a level of battle, if one is not careful, it is possible to hurt Zuoyu here. Several people have been backing away for a long distance, and then they watched the 2 hills from a distance with lingering fears. Shukaku of the sand. Shukaku of the sand is out. There is no way to stop this, we are all dead. Kankuro murmured as he looked at the huge mountain-like Shukaku. However, on the opposite side of Shukaku, the toad bunta summoned by Naruto shocked everyone even more. I didn't expect Naruto to master such a powerful psychic beast. At this time, Naruto was standing on the head of Toad Bunta, looking at Shukaku in front of him faintly. And Gaara above Shukaku's head has a seal on his hands, the art of hypnosis. The next moment, Gaara lowered his head and slowly fell asleep. Instead, Shukaku's spirit was awakened, and his power suddenly increased. Wow, ha ha ha, I'm finally out. Shukaku's sharp voice called out, causing Tamari and the others not far away to numb their scalps. Hey, Naruto, did you call me out to deal with this guy? Looking at Shukaku's excited look, Toad Bunta reluctantly called out, this is Shukaku IQ. This time it's really tricky. Hehe, Wentai, are you afraid? Naruto smiled. Wentai took a sharp puff of cigarette, squinted his eyes and spit the smoke on the opposite Shukaku, curled his lips and said, don't use aggressive tactics, although this guy is very tricky, but I'm not afraid of him. Cough cough. That big toad on the opposite side. I'm going to cook and eat you. Shukaku just came out and laughed a few times, but he was choked by Wentai's smoke, and he suddenly shouted angrily. Naruto smiled slightly. It seems that the guy who has been locked up for a long time has a bad temper. Chapter 78 Rasenshuriken. Huh, there's another raspy kid. Shukaku narrowed his eyes, only to realize that the person who had summoned the giant toad was just a teenage kid, and immediately became angry. You're such a jerk. I don't know how high the sky is. Look at how my Shukaku master teaches you. When the tailed beast is angry, it is equivalent to an abnormal natural disaster. Suddenly, the sand and stone are scattered, the yellow sand is flying in the sky, and the forest is suddenly plunged into chaos. The gust of wind swept through, and it seemed to blow all the surrounding trees away. Sasu Tamari and others in the distance were full of shock. This level of monster is completely beyond the ability of ordinary ninjas to deal with. Sayu was even a little worried about Naruto, although he knew that he must be very strong, but if the opponent was replaced by such a behemoth monster, no one could predict the result. However, Naruto was just standing on the top of Toad's head at this time, with a calm expression, and instructed Wentai to say, you should restrain him for a while, I need a little time to prepare a spell. Huh, what technique are you going to use? Can you defeat him? Wentai asked involuntarily. I don't know if it can be defeated, but it should bring him some damage. Naruto smiled slightly. Besides, his aura is not strong right now. Wentai will be suspicious. The tail beast is a tail beast after all. Even if it is me, I can only hold him for a while. Can you really do it, kid? Naruto shook his head. I have to try if it works. Now his breath is gradually increasing. If he fully releases his power, it will be even more difficult to clean up then. Okay, I'll trust you once. Wentai pulled out his dagger and said with all his strength, you have to stand firm. With a swish, the cold light of the short knife slashed towards Shukaku's body, and Wentai's huge body also jumped high at the same time. With a gust of wind, the airflow of the entire forest was stirred by the two behemoths. Shukaku raised his arms and slammed in front of him. Despite this, Shukaku was also very angry. He didn't expect this big toad to have some strength. He waved his arm and forced Wentai back. The next moment, he opened his mouth and a cannonball with a large amount of wind attribute chakra suddenly formed. Futon, wind style, practice bullets. The air cannon carrying the powerful pressure blasted towards Wentai in an instant. To be outdone, Mrs. Wen opened her mouth, and a huge water cannon suddenly spewed out. Sweetened, water style, iron cannon jade. Boom! The water cannon Hefeng shells suddenly collided violently, and then scattered together with the violent storm, and suddenly the forest seemed to be raining heavily. After that, Shukaku kept hitting him with empty bombs, and Wentai had to use Sweeten, water style, to fight him. At first, he was able to hold on, but the more stalemate, Wentai's disadvantage became apparent. His chakra there is far from enough tailed beasts. After more than 10 rounds of Sweeten, water style, it has gradually become exhausted, while Shukaku is getting more and more fierce, and the chakra is getting stronger and stronger, forcing Wentai back layer by layer. Sayu Tamari and the others were already stunned. They had never seen such a big scene. How could they have imagined such a level of battle? Not to mention the shock brought by the appearance of the huge-tailed beast, Naruto was able to summon a big toad comparable to the tailed beast, which made them speechless for a while. At this time, they also realized that they were really a frog in the bottom of a well. However, in addition to the shock, Zuoyu was worried about Naruto. After all, the big toad is in a weak position now. How can he defeat the behemoth next? Suddenly, a strong chakra fluctuation suddenly rose, and at the same time, a humming sound resounded from the edge, and several people looked at the direction of the sound. That is Naruto standing on top of Toad's head. I saw that he had a shadow clone next to him, exuding a faint golden light all over his body, and a bright white energy ball was rapidly spinning in his hand. The phantom of the sword, the harsh sound, is emanating from here. What a powerful chakra! Tamari couldn't help being deeply shocked. Konkuro is also sweating on his forehead. This chakra is so strong, even I can feel that strong oppression even here. What kind of magic is this? Tamari couldn't help but ask Sayu next to him. How do I know? Zuoyu was already shocked by this technique, but her heart was more complicated. Naruto, I don't know when you have become so powerful. This kind of art can't be used even by Hokage, right? How did you do it? Naruto's forehead was slightly sweaty at this time. Even with the support of the immortal power of the spell, it would be difficult to perform Futon, wind-style Rasenshuriken. Using it at this time is just a master who wants to use this opportunity to make himself faster under pressure. However, the effect looks pretty good. Although Rasenshuriken is difficult to control, he managed to condense it with the help of a clone. However, due to the lack of skill at all, the preparation time seems to be a little longer. Fortunately, the surgery is finally complete. With a bang, Naruto dispersed Shadow Clone, stood up straight, raised the mighty Rasenshuriken with one hand, and faced Shukaku. Finally done. Wenta, thank you for your hard work. He smiled slightly, his clothes fluttering in the wind, his blonde hair flying, and in an instant, Shukaku on the opposite side felt a sense of fear. If I get hit by this technique, I'll be free this time. Shukaku secretly thought badly. Toad Wentai was even more shocked. Feeling the power of this technique at such a close distance, he felt like he was pressing a heavy object under Naruto's feet. This powerful chakra aura requires how strong chakra manipulation to be stable. Is this technique the technique that the 4th generation Hokage once wanted to evolve Rasengan? I didn't expect to be created by his son at such an early age. This is incredible. Naruto, good job. The next moment, Wentai couldn't help but exclaimed, "It's up to you now." Naruto smiled. Well, let's go. Chapter 79 Save. In the next instant, Wentai swooped on him, and Naruto stomped hard on his feet. The speed of the two was superimposed. Naruto's figure seemed to turn into a streamer, and he came to Shukaku with Rasenshuriken in his palm. In front of Shukaku opened his arms and shouted loudly, "Shield of Shukaku." The next moment, his two arms suddenly turned into a huge shield, blocking Naruto. Boom! A huge roar sounded, and Naruto's Rasenshuriken collided with Shukaku's shield in an instant, and an extremely strong energy Uzumaki erupted, and the sky and the earth also lit up. Many ninjas in Konoha village also noticed the powerful energy fluctuation not far away, and they all looked sideways. What happened over there? Kakashi frowned slightly and said to himself, "This powerful chakra feels like Naruto." "What's wrong, Kakashi?" Guy asked as he came to him, frowning. "It's nothing, be careful." Kakashi shook his head, and he immediately blocked a sneak attacker. The terrifying energy brought a violent hurricane, which blew the trees around the forest upside down. Even Zuiyu and others not far away were also swept by the strong wind, and some stood unsteady. Finally, everything is at peace. Shukaku's shield disappeared, and Shukaku's body was slowly scattered with yellow sand, and his eyes gradually disappeared, slowly disappearing with unwillingness and panic. Gaara gradually woke up, but he was in great pain all over his body. When he opened his eyes, his pupils shrank suddenly. A huge pit of dozens of meters appeared in sight, and he himself was lying on the edge of the pit. Inside the pit, a big toad was smoking a cigarette leisurely. Beside him is Naruto's upright figure. Uzumaki Naruto, did I lose? Gaara said only this sentence after 1,000 words. Naruto was frowning and looking at his left hand. He couldn't help laughing when he heard the words, "Didn't you see it in the end?" Hearing this, Gaara's expression suddenly darkened. "Since I lost, then kill me. I have nothing to say." Naruto shook his head and sighed. "A person with a distorted mind like you, I should have killed you, but I know it can't be entirely your fault. There are many tragedies in this world. To be honest, I am very sorry for what happened to you. Sympathy, so I won't kill you." "I don't need sympathy." Gaara frowned. "Sympathy or something is just the treatment of the weak." "Well, I don't sympathize with you, but I still won't kill you," Naruto said again. Why didn't you kill me?" Naruto lowered his head and thought for a while, then he looked up and smiled. "Originally, I wanted to say that I want to be friends with you, but you will definitely not believe that, so I can only say, I think you are a talent, and the future will definitely be good. The development of the ninja world, I don't want to lose a strong person in the ninja world." Gaara fell silent. He didn't understand what Naruto meant. For Gaara, Naruto is willing to change him. After all, he will be a Kazekage in the future, and he is still young and calm, a good Kazekage who loves his people like a child. Among them, his mouth escapes, but the key is that he is no longer the original Naruto. There is still no end to whether a person can escape him or not. Therefore, he had to say it according to what he thought in his heart, saying sympathy, no, let's talk about love, but obviously, these can't convince Gaara. It seems that I can only learn from the original Naruto. At this time, Naruto happened to notice that Temari and Kankuro were approaching anxiously not far away. Temari was rushing over, and when he saw Gaara lying at Naruto's feet from a distance, he couldn't help getting anxious and shouted from a distance, "Uzumaki Naruto, you are not allowed to hurt Gaara." "Gaara, to be honest, your mind is completely distorted now, but, I think you should understand, what do you really need in your heart? Naruto pointed at Temari Kankuro, and then a pair of them were dazed. Gaara said, look, even if the two of them are afraid of you, they are still your relatives and companions. They will still be so nervous when they see you like this, so don't think that reality is already a hell. Don't think that you are the most unfortunate people. God is always fair. Look at their faces, can't you see that they really care about you? And what you need, isn't this kind of love from the heart? Gaara opened her mouth and felt choked for a moment. Naruto continued, also, you have the care of your relatives, and you have great strength. Even if you have encountered some misfortune in the past, isn't everything worth cherishing now? Okay, stand up. God made you lose something, and it will definitely give you something. Do you continue to choose to lose these things in the killing, or choose to be quiet and appreciate these things? With a knowing smile on Naruto's face, he reached out to him. Gaara was stunned. Naruto's words kept filling his mind, and when he turned his head, he saw Temari Kankuro running over. Stop, Uzumaki Naruto. Temari waved his arm when he saw that Naruto was going to kill Gaara, and a kunai shot towards Naruto. Naruto tilted his head, and Kuna passed by his ear, but he didn't withdraw his hand, and continued to look at Gaara. Finally, Gaara reached out to Naruto and held it. A slight effort, Gaara stood up. The two Temari were stunned for a moment. This is... Naruto smiled slightly and said, since you guys are here, I'll go first. Wentai, it's been hard work for you, go back. Wentai in the pit sighed and said, remember to call me next time if you have something to do, it's a good feeling to be your partner. After speaking, he turned into white smoke and returned to Mount Myoboku. As soon as he finished speaking, Naruto's figure disappeared in a flash. The two of Temari were stunned. What's going on? Gaara, why didn't he? Let's go back. Gaara sighed slightly and said, can you help me? Huh, both of them were surprised. When did Gaara's tone become so good? Chapter 86 Generation. Saying goodbye to Gaara, Naruto quickly came to Zuiyu's side. At this time, Zuiyu was looking at the direction of the battlefield. Unfortunately, she was seriously injured and couldn't run very far. She wanted to see the result very much. She could only stand there anxiously. Wait. Naruto's arrival calmed her heart, and she couldn't help but say, are you all right? Naruto, have you defeated that big monster? Naruto nodded. Well, I'm fine, Shukaku has solved it. That's good. Zuoyu exhaled, her expression suddenly a little sad. Naruto saw that her face was not very good, thought she was seriously injured, and hurriedly said, Sayu, your health is okay. Come on, I'll take you back to Konoha for treatment first. He carried Zuoyu on his back, jumped up, and hurried towards Konoha. Zuoyu was lying on Naruto's back without saying a word, but he couldn't help wrapping his hands around his neck, and brought his face slightly closer to his golden hair, smelling the breath on his body, and suddenly felt a kind of mind. The feeling of being drunk, this feeling is like being on my brother's back when I was a child, peaceful and happy. At this time, Naruto was eager to go back to Konoha to see the situation on Sandai's side, and he didn't pay attention to Sayu's abnormality at all. Moreover, he felt a little pain in his left hand at this time, and frowned secretly in his heart. It seemed that Rasenshuriken just now still have some side effects on myself. Even in the state of the curse, letting this spell erupt at such a close distance will inevitably cause damage to the body. It seems that we must develop a Rasenshuriken that can be thrown out in the future. After rushing for a while, because the village was in chaos now, he didn't feel relieved to take Sayu to the Konoha hospital, so he carried her directly to the final scene, where the huge 4-purple flame barrier was located. At this time, Kakashi and others were constantly fighting, but due to the small number of combined forces in Sand Ninja Village and Odogakur Village, Konoha Ninja quickly began to defend and counterattack in an orderly manner under the organization of various departments after the initial panic. Although Konoha Village is weakening day by day, its foundation is not so easy to shake. At this moment, it shows its powerful strength. Kakashi and other elite ninjas are very brave even if they are outnumbered. After the other ninjas reacted, the spirit of protecting the village that erupted was also very strong, and the ninjas of Sand Ninja Village and Otogakure Village gradually retreated as they fought back. However, compared to these ninjas, those psychic snakes belonging to Orochimaru are very tricky, and ordinary ninjas simply cannot do anything about them. Moreover, Jiraiya did not appear to help either. After Naruto arrived, he immediately cast a psychic technique and summoned Toad Bunta and his brother Toad Ken, etc. Immediately, 3 or 4 huge toads stood in the village of Konoha. Although the buildings were inevitably destroyed, their huge mountain-like bodies gave everyone in Konoha a confidence. After that, Orochimaru's psychic snakes were also cleaned up by the toads. At this point, Konoha is already in a win-win situation. Naruto carried Zuiyu to the outside of the 4 purple flame barrier, but saw Enko looking anxiously inside. Naruto's arrival surprised her slightly. "Naruto, why are you here?" "I'll take a look." Naruto took a closer look and saw that inside the barrier, there were trees and a vast ocean. Outside, only a few figures could be seen flashing. One of the figures with long white hair in Yuhi-colored imperial robes is Jiraiya. The other figure beside him is the 3rd generation. When he saw Jiraiya, Naruto couldn't help but feel a little joy in his heart. However, their situation is very critical, because in the face of the powerful strength of the 1st generation and the 2nd generation, and the threat of Orochimaru, even Jiraiya and the 3rd generation are almost unable to resist. In fact, the 1st and 2nd generation Orochimaru came out of the dirt this time. The strength is not the peak, but greatly reduced, but despite this, the victory of the two is infinite in chakra, and they will never die or die. They are complete war machines. Couldn't get them to stop, so despite Jiraiya's help, the fight was a tough one. After all, the 3rd generation is old, he has gradually lost his strength. Enko was sweating anxiously, but he could only stare. Naruto also frowned. "Break this barrier," he said. "You don't want to die. Don't be impulsive." Enko hurriedly grabbed him. "This barrier cannot be destroyed from the outside at all. If you force an attack, the attacker will only suffer the consequences. Just look at him and you'll know." Saying that, she pointed to the charred corpse that fell to the ground not far away. Naruto was helpless. After reading the original book, he naturally knew that the power of the 4 purple flame barrier could not be broken even if he used Rasenshuriken himself, unless it was Tailed Beast Bomb or something. However, Jiraiya is his master, and the 3 generations are also his mentors. Although he doesn't have deep feelings for them now, Naruto feels really powerless when he sees them in danger. "No, I have to try." Naruto just thought that Hand Seal released a shadow clone, the magic seal immortal power turned on, and Rasengan used it. Just when he was about to use Rasenshuriken again, there was a sudden tingling in his left hand. The chakra disappeared in an instant. It seems that the injury to this hand is really serious. Naruto secretly said. Helpless, he could only watch the two passively beaten inside. At this time, Jiraiya was being trapped in the big tree by Mokuden, wood style, of the 1st generation. Seeing that the attack of the 1st generation was coming, the eyes of the 3rd generation showed a decisive look. Suddenly, his body exuded a huge momentum. At the same time, the body of the 1st and 2nd generation fell down inexplicably and turned into flying ashes, leaving only 2 bodies before the dirt, and then, Orochimaru's body also shocked. But at this moment, Orochimaru's long sword also stabbed into his body quickly. Blood splashed. Just like the original, 3 generations sacrificed themselves, but due to Orochimaru's final resistance, he could only seal his hands. Before he fell down, the 3rd generation glanced at Jiraiya, who was very sad, with a relieved smile on his face. "Jiraiya, I didn't expect to fight with you in my lifetime. I'm very satisfied, and then the village will be handed over to me." At this time, the 3rd generation suddenly glanced at Naruto outside the enchantment, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "Also, Jiraiya, Naruto is your apprentice now. You can cultivate him as the 6th generation Hokage." He is very hopeful to surpass the previous Hokage. As for the 5th generation, you will be the one.